right, I'll call to order this special meeting of the Lake Lord Town Council on this Wednesday, May 30th, 2018 at 9 a.m. I would ask those that are here to please stand for invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed on our community as we gather here in public service to our town and its citizens. We ask for your divine guidance and wisdom to help us govern effectively, to do what serves the greater good and best interest of our citizens, and to be good stewards and guardians of this beautiful place we call home. On this extraordinary occasion, we ask for your help and guidance in dealing with this storm that has impacted our community. We ask that you keep our citizens safe and that you keep our town staff and leaders safe and provide us with guidance so that we can deal with and recover from this horrible event. In your name we humbly pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Okay, this being a special meeting, we have a fairly brief and focused agenda. I would ask for any suggestions on modifications.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I recommend we add an item 6, which is a discussion on the emergency actions taken, the state of emergency declaration, and the recovery actions needed from this point forward. Okay. And what we're still doing and still need to do. Okay, we'll deal with that as an item 6 you're recommending at the end of the... Yes, and before the adjournment, yes. Okay. Are there any other suggestions, changes? All right, we have a second for that? I mean, unless we need to do it earlier. We need to do it earlier to get somebody out of here. I'd kind of like to get it, yeah, could we get it out of the way? And, that's fine with me. Yeah, all right. Want to do it number 3? That would be fine. Or number 4, I mean? Yeah, well, we unlikely to have public comment, right, so either place is fine. So we'll do that as number 4. Number 4. Right. Okay, so we have the motion and a second. Second. By Commissioner Cameron. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, those opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move into item number 3, which is a public comment. There being no members of the public here today, we will then skip that item and move directly into the new item which we've added, which is a discussion about the storm impacts, the state of emergency we've declared. Where are we, I guess, is our question today. What are the issues we're facing, and what if any plans, and we all realize it's we're still in the event, and I expect that this is a dynamic situation. So Ron, bring us up to date.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me first start by saying it has been an extraordinary circumstance, set of events that sort of led us here today. This morning, I want to just say a big thank you to all of the staff, Dustin Waycaster, Donnie, David Darewood, all the folks that were here most of the night. Some have not gone home yet. Again, a lot happened, and I'm going to get Dustin to sort of brief you on where we are and what has happened overnight. I will say that, you know, I was down at the lake house, the dam house, most of the night, and so I can tell you from that aspect of what happened with the dam, and I'll sort of fill you in on that after Dustin gives you sort of a brief background. You can tell we haven't had much sleep. A brief background on what's happened and where we are now. Thank you. Like Ron said, we hadn't had much sleep, so if I say something crazy, I don't mean to. So yesterday evening, we continued our conference calls with state emergency management. Those went well. They talked about resources, what the forecast was. I think all of you got our emails on our recommendation earlier during the weekend. It played out in our favor this time. We were able to maintain the lake level, to my surprise. It was a lot of hard work.
We took the floodgates to a level they've never been before, to my knowledge. And then, even then, it was iffy if it was going to hold or work. With the floodgates open to the 30-foot level, there was a point that Donnie was still taking on water a ½ inch every 15 minutes. The Rocky Broad River got up to over 9 feet this morning, and that was just a tremendous amount of water and load on our dam and our resources.
Is that 9 feet total or 9 feet above where it normally is?
That's 9 feet total, yes.
And it's normally what,
Normally,
about 3?
normally about 3.5.
Yeah.
I mean, any idea how many times it's been 9 feet? We keep that record?
Yeah, we've touched that record before, but just with preparing for it, and that was the biggest issue that we faced going into yesterday. So after the 3 p.m. Emergency management meeting conference call with the Western branch of emergency management, we decided that it was probably best for Lake Lord to declare a state of emergency. And we got the mayor to assist us with that. And that opens up resources and funds to the town. We got all that information placed on WebDOC with the help of our emergency management from the county. And so they've been with us every step of the way, helping seal those resources. The only problem was we were competing for resources with other counties in the western part of the state. Last night, we were able to maintain the lake level 30 feet, like I mentioned, on the floodgates. And this morning, we are right now at 13 feet. We dropped to 10 overnight at the recommendation of Dr. Dan. And we seeked his his knowledge and his experience before we made a critical step in any direction last night and this morning. Donnie done a tremendous job, communicated well with us the whole time, letting us know what was going on. It was very critical to me that communication stayed between me and him, because whatever we done at the dam, there was going to be a reaction for it. We were affecting somebody downstream. So we notified all those agencies and got those resources in line. Roger Hollifield also requested that a swiftwater rescue team be pulled from Charlotte. I don't think that resource ever made it to us. We called for one from Buncombe County. It was on the way here and got diverted. McDowell County had 6 active water rescues going on at the same time that we requested an additional water rescue team. We were able to split up one of the teams that we had and sent some of the additional resources after our area calmed down to assist McDowell County. Those were our part-time staff. I kept all full-time staff in town. I kept our town resources here and available because we were at levels that we've never seen before. So we kept them here with us. And this morning, everything calmed down around 4:30 this morning. The lake was very responsive to the levels that the floodgates were open to. And at 6 o'clock, I got a call that mudslide had happened at Chimney Rock and took out part of their fire station. So we're waiting on building inspector and engineer right now to see what's going on with that structure. As soon as they
You may not be able to answer this right now, and I hope you pick it up on tape, but what I would like to see, even if it's a week from now, a follow-up report on our recommendations regarding the lake level, whether or not that hurt or helped, whether or not maintaining it between the 988 and 988 and a half, and then 988, and then 987 and a half if needed. If you had gone down to the 3 feet originally that Ron had recommended, would it have helped you more? I mean, because obviously you would have had more room to play, and I understand that, but where you're really hampered by being asked to hold it at between that 988 and 989. And I'd like to know that information, and if you can, quantify as to how it hurt you or helped you.
Okay. I can certainly get as much information as I can on that. I can tell you the buffer that we did have last night disappeared quickly. It was a blessing that we had it, but it was gone in just a matter of a couple of hours, I would say.
All right.
So I will try to get as much information.
And even if Dr. Marks has some input on whether he thinks holding it at that level hurt the stability of the dam in any way, okay. Or just not affect it at all. Okay. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Justin.
Nice job on that.
I think all of you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Please pass it on to everybody involved.
Yeah, again, we appreciate Dustin certainly leading the charge for us and keeping everybody together. The mayor.
It is. You just need to just punch a button or something. Here, it's come up, and just hit the return a couple times, and it should pull back up to where it was.
While he's getting ready, also, Dustin, if you would add to that, what you would have done differently. Okay. So, if anything.
There you go, and then just drop it. Yeah, there you go. Drop it down a little bit.
This is the lake level. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Lake level. So you'll see that we stayed pretty constant up until last night late or early this morning, as I put it. We started dropping in preparation for that additional storm, and you can see us now at about the 2.5 foot level. You'll see this level out now. I think they were at 54. When I just last talked to him right before your meeting started, so you'll start seeing that.
Yeah, when I came across, Ron, it was the inside gate was still almost all the way up, and the other two were back down almost to their normal position.
Their normal.
So
this is the one that Dustin was referring to. See if I can bring it up.
It'll come up. It'll take a minute to generate.
I can tell you just in watching Donnie and David and myself being down there at the dam, again, we were looking. Click and drag here.
I think if you go down to the bottom arrow, you
Hi,
can
John.
step
I'm
it
your
down.
assistant, here to help you throughout your day. Here are some things you can try saying to get
There you
started.
go.
Show me how to turn it off.
teach me where the power button is and the silence button.
I thought I had the thing on silent. Okay, I think it quit.
Again, this is what Dustin was referring to. At one point, we had 9.4 on this stream gauge. The other stream gauge quit working at some point during the night, but you'll see that the 9.4, the major flood, is 9.5, so we were right there at it. Mm-hmm. Just a ton of water. We'll have to quantify that, but a lot of water going down the stream into the lake. And I will say, at 30 feet and the lake still rising a half an inch, we were certainly worried at that point that we were going to top. And in fact, if we had not had a break in the rain and that other storm moved east towards Marion, which you saw the results of that storm this morning on the news, if that had not happened and that had hit us, we most certainly would have likely topped. We were not able to control it at that point. Fortunately, it was, and it moved over just east of us, and we were able to recover the lake in time, so that was good news. Any more questions about this? And again, like Commissioner Weber stated, we'll put together a report on the event and get that to you. That'll have our levels and the actions that were taken at the time and what damage was caused as a result of opening the floodgates so much. There was damage, we understand, downstream, and so they're still looking at that.
Just a comment, Ron, I was at the dam just after 5 yesterday afternoon with Donnie and John, and Donnie was really giving John a lot of the credit for all his hard work and great work in keeping the level yesterday.
Yeah.
And David said he had learned more probably yesterday about the dam and all that than he has, since he's been here, because they were there all day.
That's right.
And they did an excellent job.
And thank you. John Wilson did a fantastic job during the day, keeping it to where we were. He put us in great shape for the night, and that's probably what helped us most.
So Ron, unquestionably, not only did we receive enormous amounts of water coming down that river, we also unquestionably received enormous amounts of debris and silt. And so as we move into the aftermath of the storm, clearly that's going to have to be one of our priorities. And we had talked briefly before the meeting about getting some assistance financially or otherwise from FEMA or our insurance company in terms of funding, and so I assume that's all part of our going to be part of our recovery plan.
It is, yes, sir. You'll notice with the declaration that really sets us up for federal state assistance. Rutherford County, I understand, adopted one at 8 o'clock last night, so we are certainly covered by that declaration. So we will wait and see, what types of money, if any, are attached to this event. We are hopeful that they are, especially if you'll see facility damage up in Chimney Rock. You'll see the damage in Old Fort and Marion and some of those other places. You would think that some of that would be coming this way, and perhaps we can get some money to help with the dredging costs.
Yeah, and Governor Cooper's going to be touring the area.
That's right.
So I don't know if we're going to be able to get him, whether he'll be through here or not.
Yeah, I think Polk County, and there was one other place, I can't remember now.
McDowell, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. That he was headed, so.
Good. All right. Well, thanks again for
Thank
your
you.
effort as well. I know you were right in the midst of and showing, I think, good leadership and management during the event.
Thank you. Can we get a single summary report to go out on what roads are closed and the anticipated time before reopening all around us?
We will, yes,
So
sir.
people here in this area will know which direction to go to get where?
Right, again, they're doing the assessments now. Once we get that, we'll get that out to the folks.
Yeah.
And just one last thing, it just reminded me. I noticed we don't have Valerie here this morning, and I'm not sure where we are with our communications program, but I think it's really important that we. I know we've done a good job of getting the alerts out and the warnings and the emergency communications, but I think we're quickly moving today to a time when I think we need to get more general public information out, to reassure citizens about where we are and what our plan is, because I'm sure they're all very concerned about our town and and what we're doing, to rebound from this. So I don't know where we are with that, but I would just suggest if we don't have the resources available necessarily, to get this done quickly, that we think about reaching out to some other resources. And I know other organizations here have used folks like the McConnell Group, and we have Louisa Duncan with the website Around Lake Lure. They're all great platforms to get information out quickly, and it hits the social media, and that kind of takes care of itself. So.
Well, yeah, Greg Balk, I love Lake Lure. He's got 11,000 members now, but still, he gets that info out.
We just did such a great job when the fire was, and it would be good to see some of that now. I think it would be good.
And we had, of course, that was a very slow-moving fire compared to what happened last night. So, but certainly we will put those assessments together and get them out as quickly as possible. Valerie and I traded texts. As you know, part of our town still does not have power, and she is one of those that does not have power. So we will work on that and get something out pretty quick.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
One more conversation with Dustin before, Steve will kind of speak to your summary. Dustin told me that through Chimney Rock, they can't even get above the Esmeralda yet.
Yeah.
Because the mudslide there has the roadblock just above the Esmeralda. So they can't get above between there and the one up on 64 to even make an assessment as to what the situation is.
And well, I understand 64 is closed, 74 is closed, and I think 9 towards Black Mountain is closed.
Yep.
So even the people on the other side of Esmeralda going that way, that still access our communications.
Well, if 64, 74, 9 is closed, they can't access anything.
They can't go anywhere, so.
Come around the other way.
Unless they can go across, well, if they can get to Bear Wall, you know.
Yeah, I just don't know where they're closed at though. And I don't know about 9 going that way, 64 going that way.
Was there any road damage, Dustin? Do we have any idea? Was there any road damage east of the town?
We haven't.
Had nobody, no reports?
We made it that far on the assessment.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I
We
think we're
appreciate
done
it.
now.
You're welcome.
Long day.
Thank you. Again, good job.
Yeah, thank
Everything that y'all did.
All right, so now, if we're done with that item, we will move into item now number 5, which is review and discussions of the proposed 2018-2019 budget. Again, Ron, I know you've had a long night.
Yeah.
We have this, so.
Let me just give you a quick update. I know we're hoping that, again, all the fire departments, all the department heads would be here. As you know, the fire department chiefs were out, if you know, real late, if they have gotten any sleep at all, so we ended up canceling those, and we'll have to reschedule those with the board. Please know that, of course, the chief of police was out, David was out, Donnie was out, and, of course, Dustin was out all night. So for that reason, we'll reschedule those. We do have, I understand, some people trickling in, and we could cover those if the board wants to. Otherwise, you have in your packets what the department heads went through and sort of recommended as some additional cuts. I will start off by saying some good news. You'll notice on the board there, you know, as we were putting the budget together, we neglected to put in $150,000 for the dredging grant. So you are actually, even though you're, you know, looking at the possibility of a tax increase, you've just come up $150,000 in revenue. So take that into consideration as we're going through the rest of the document. What I will say, though, is it may be a blessing because after these storms, we may need additional money in dredging now that we are, you know, we're looking at what we have this morning.
Well, now, I realize we have to spend the 300 to get the 150. So do we put the 150 in this year's budget? Because it's going to be based on what we spend for this year.
That's right. We'd have to spend the 300 to get the 150,000.
But we wouldn't actually get it till next year.
No, we would get it after we get reimbursed for it. It's a reimbursable grant. So we would get it this year. The only reason Sam, that's right. I don't want to say anything.
Not if we don't turn in what we spend.
We got to spend it.
Right.
When you say next year, you're talking about after July 1st.
After July 1st.
Is that what you're saying, Steve?
No, we're talking the 18-19 budget, which is July 1 to June 30. Okay, so between that time, we have to spend 300,000. Now, I don't know when we're going to get done spending that, but we're going to have to wait till it's spent to verify that it's been spent to submit the request for the reimbursement. So would you actually get the 150,000 back on the 18-19 budget or the 19-20 budget?
18-19.
Okay. So if you don't turn it in until June the 15th that we spent 300, we're going to get it back by the end of the year.
See,
I mean, that's my question.
if we ran into an instance where it was difficult to spend the 300, could you escrow some of it and count that as an expense? Escrow specifically for nothing else but dredging?
Yes, there are some budget guidelines that we could follow to help out with that. What I wanted to say is we've already spent some money this fiscal year that we're going to ask for reimbursement for this fiscal year. And I don't know, was that 20 some odd $1,000? Does that sound about right? And so, you know, we will spend the bulk of this money with your next contract approval June 12th at your board meeting. We resubmitted the dredging grants. They have responded. We've got a recommendation for you that will be coming to your meeting on June 12th.
How do we get a reimbursement on the 20,000 for this year? Or 30,000?
If you'll remember, it's a 2-year grant, 150,000 over 2 fiscal years, and we did not spend the full amount, and so we're eligible for reimbursement. They gave us an extension, so a grant extension for an extra year.
So we can add the two together?
Right, we'll basically go into that next fiscal year as well, and it
Okay.
may not be a full amount.
Okay.
And we have a pit full of material sitting out there, so the first order of business that we're gonna pay and get reimbursed for is gonna be to empty that pit.
That's correct.
So we don't necessarily have to wait until dredging season to activate the contract when we have it, right?
That's correct.
And then there are gonna be other site work, which we'll get into, I suppose, in June, that we're looking at out there, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So our proposed $400,000 dredging in here is now gonna be reduced to a $250 expense.
No, what I'm saying is
Overall.
your revenue does not reflect the $150,000 grant that the town would receive.
Okay.
So your expenditures would remain the same.
Right.
What we're showing is a revenue of 150, which is why it's a plus.
The offset,
The
so
offset.
that leaves the 250
That's
balance.
right.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Well, and for the purposes of making use of this special session and discussion without the department's heads here, you know, to get into some of the fine detail of proposed reductions or why are we spending. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but, you know, I kind of feel a need to maybe look at this thing a little bit at a higher level as to some of the things conceptually, you know, we would like to do or not do as we move forward with the budget. I mean, we're clearly looking at a significant tax increase to balance the budget as you've presented these options to us. And we are looking at the potential for perhaps postponing some major expenditures, projects, in order to lessen that impact on tax increase. We've not really gone anywhere yet that I'm aware of to consider other potential revenue sources. We have the ability, we have debt as an option to spread out some of these major project expenses over a longer term period to lessen the immediate impact on a yearly budget. So I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, we could just simply not go there, or if there's some discussion we could have, it might help us in the next round to.
Well, when you say not go there, you mean what, not consider this?
Now, we can consider this, I guess, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to have difficulty in
Making a decision
in
without-
resolving, you know, some of these proposed reductions without hearing possibly, you know.
Well, sure, and I'm looking at like fire with Dustin sitting here, since he's the only department head here. The proposed reductions he had, I'm sure he may want to say, no, I can't reduce that now, even though they seem minor, postage and supplies and stuff, because we just ended up spending a lot more than we thought we would this year.
Well, let me say this. If you'll look at the bottom of my memo there, to Town Council, May 25th, page 3, you'll see that really the savings that you're going to be able to absorb in this budget, meaning that, you know, you can reduce the proposed tax rate to something, you know, more in line with what y'all are thinking, really comes down to two areas, and that's personnel and capital outlay. You're going to notice that when you take out the silt removal, you have very little operational cuts that are going to help you. And what I'm afraid is those operational cuts will actually do more harm, meaning that those same department heads that said we could make operational cuts, and I'll use Dustin as an example, you know, that $1,400, he will probably need to come back to you at the end of next fiscal year and ask you for more money. I mean, it's just when you're cutting operational line items that close, there's always the chance. Now, he may not. You just don't know what's going to happen next year. But if you back out those, you're really only talking about less than $50,000, I think, of operational costs. Most of your other costs are associated with the capital and your personnel, the new personnel that's proposed.
Well, see, and this goes to the same thing I just said. So on fire, right there, I would say, no, I would not accept those reductions that he's proposed, and leave it as presented in the original budget on the fire. On Public Works, looking at what he would cut, would be his utility worker, which is the help he needs. And so apparently David felt that he couldn't cut anything from his budget, which he probably felt like he had it bare bones. And the only thing he can say, okay, I've been doing without the help, I guess I can keep doing without him, but I really still need him. Right. So I would say, no, I wouldn't buy that cut. I would accept Public Works as it is. Yeah. Now, there's some others that I would have discussion about, but on those two in particular, I mean, that's just two examples right offhand. I would say I would accept what's in here for Public Works and Fire.
And you'll notice as you go through their operational guides for each department, you'll see that you know, very few departments increased over last fiscal year. Most actually brought in budgets that were less than last fiscal year. So your department heads have been operating on streamlined budgets for quite some time, operationally, we'll say. Okay. And so, you know, again, as you brought up David in Public Works, he felt, you know, the extra employee, plus if you'll look at his capital projects, the bucket truck, the Tryon Bay storm drain, street paving, those were the kind of areas that he felt could be put off for another year if the board so chose.
I agree with what Stephen's saying. I think it'd be a good idea to have David before us to make that decision and let him tell us exactly how having that extra employee or not having it would affect his department.
Well, didn't he already do that in February at the retreat? I mean,
well, he made the request for additional, for someone. Obviously, he needs that person.
Yeah. I mean, those are the first words out of his mouth at the retreat. I need help.
Right.
and of course we offered up the part-time, but he can't find anybody that wants to work part-time knowing they're going to be out of a job by the end of November or something. So I mean, it's tough. So I would say eliminate the part-time, go ahead and give him the full-time utility worker, you know.
Well, look what they got to work with now after the storm.
Yeah, I know.
They've got 2 months worth of work, just storm cleanup, not counting the regular duties.
And with all that is going on, I don't know that it's going to get any better for him. So even if he had the extra hand, I don't know how much that's going to help for how long.
Ron, just for my clarification on that utility work, that $55,000, that's annual. Does that include benefit package and everything?
Yes, yep, that's salaries and benefits.
Salaries and benefits. Yeah. What's the actual salary part of that? Do you have a clue?
I do.
Yeah, that's I don't remember what page Public Works is on. Page 87, if I'm reading my lines right, or 95.
Sam, would you say about 40% benefit adder to the basic cost of the employee would be somewhere in the realm?
Okay.
That's what's used in construction, 41%. If you pay somebody $10 an hour, they cost you 14 an hour.
Yeah, we use about 40%, 37 to 40% in our.
That's benefits and,
Everything on top.
yeah, general.
So, yeah, we just used right at 40%, so.
Yeah, I think that's right in the realm of where I used to be
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
So, yeah, if you pay somebody 10, they cost you 14.
As long as you don't try to plow back all your G&A expense back on individual, you
No,
know,
it's all your
to make a full
vacations
cost,
and tax
yeah. Yeah,
So it's about 37,000, 38,000.
The base salary.
yeah.
But see, that only increased his budget by 23,000 over last year.
He's cutting himself, yeah.
So I mean,
Somewhere he's cutting
Yeah.
back on the current operation to get.
well, let's see. I gotta look versus, that's right, what he has on his doesn't include the benefits and that kind of stuff. That's all added at Ron's level.
You'll see when you look at that operational guide, it's on page 98 of your budget.
Right.
You'll see that the department request did not include, Anita, Sam, and I figure salaries and benefits. So your department request was calculated at the same amount. The manager recommended is what includes the new one, or the
Right.
proposed
And,
salary
yeah.
position.
Well, this discussion right here shows it's gonna be impossible to do this without these people here.
Well, what?
That was kind of my point, is that it's gonna be impossible for us to, you know, really have an educated discussion without these folks here.
Well, just to go over and quantify, so we're in the big picture sense. So our budget imbalance over what we would forecast without a tax increase to increase revenues to a balanced budget is how much, Ron? What's the difference? What are we short next year if we did not have a tax increase?
Zero tax increase.
Yes, sir.
Somebody do the math for me real quick. So just take the 12 cents times 84.
Wait a minute, say it again.
12 times roughly about 84.9.
It was 83.4 is what you gave us.
83.4. Okay, so just do $83,400 times 12.
$1,800,000.
Okay, so let's say $1 million is what we're short. And and so 12, so it's about, for every $84,000, we save 1 penny, right? I mean,
That's correct.
if we'd have to save $84,000 to reduce a tax increase, if that's where we were going, the budget, $84,000. So the kinds of things I think we're looking at
Are pretty big.
are not $2,500.
right.
You know, they're not $7,500. You know, I mean, agreed, they all add up, but we could spend a lot of time down in the weeds of these operating budgets trying to weed out that kind of stuff. And I don't think we get very far in terms of reducing the deficit and reducing our proposed tax increase. I mean, could I
agree
say
with you.
that?
Well, yes, sir, I agree with you.
Do you, you all agree with that?
Yep.
I'm not saying dismiss the other
That's right.
things, but,
I understand.
so, in terms of taking a first cut through some of this stuff and saying, what are some big numbers? I mean, the big numbers to me are things like the Parks and Rec Director, for one. You know, that's a new position, that's $55,000. It's not quite a penny, but it's.
No, it's 80.
It's
I'm sorry, 80.
With salaries and
So
benefits.
that's right about 1 penny, you know, for Parks and Rec Director, which we don't have right now.
Well, I don't agree with cutting that, I'll tell you.
Well,
that.
I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying these are the things we should look at, you know, if we're gonna.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at all of them.
Yeah.
So,
I think you're right. The only exception I would make to that is the 3 cents that's needed for your debt service for the dam repairs. Until we can actually see if we can secure any additional revenue, that 3 cents is needed.
So that's in the 12,
That's in the 12.
and it may be that we get outside funding,
Right.
at least some portion.
But at this point, we
of it.
do not,
Yeah,
we
so that's
cannot
another-
guarantee that.
That's another variable in all this.
Bob, you had one you and I talked about, you were gonna propose,
You know, if I can remember it in my old age.
marina project.
Oh, yeah, on the marina project, we
Yep.
had in there, what, $300,000 this budget?
Right.
I don't see any reason that, we would not spend that whole 300 in this next budget in engineering, because it'll take us 6 months to get an engineer, or 3 months to get an engineer, and then do everything else. I just feel like that number could be cut easily by 100,000 or 125, because we just can't get there. We've got to put out for RFPs for the
Yeah.
engineering service. Once you get the engineering service, then they'll be running a constant ticket as far as, billing you
Well,
on a
and
contract.
plus, what we have in our packet today, one of those end-of-year contracts is the surveying and stuff, so that'll be spent this year.
Right.
So would you go 100 or 125?
You went 150.
I don't mind
Oh.
150. I don't think you'll spend it. You won't be able to.
Right.
We gotta get the surveying done. Well, there's months. I just
Yeah, I
I
think you're probably right.
just
Well,
And let me just ask also along that question then, is we're looking at paying these upfront professional service fees out of pocket
That's correct.
versus wrapping them into a finance package that spreads that cost out over 20 years?
All right. And that performa will give us more information, but again, it's one of those numbers you have to put there until we can
It's a big-
secure the.
But it's a
any
big
revenue.
number, it's almost two
It's
cents.
10% of the
So
project. It was,
Pushing,
yeah,
yeah.
a little less than 10% of the project cost.
yeah.
So I think we'd be okay with this for the next.
Yeah, and that's
fiscal year.
almost 2 cents on tax. I was prepared to walk in here and recommend a $25,000 or $50,000 reduction in the dredging until the storm happened.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna recommend that now. I say leave that budget at 400, as proposed.
And I think then we'll focus on getting an outside income source to offset that with the
Yeah.
FEMA or whoever
We-
we can grab, to
Yeah,
we hope
offset
so.
that. And it'll be a revenue source and not a cost reduction.
So, so another 10 to 14,000 or 18,000, and you got 2 cents reduction.
Yeah, really, I think, again, you're looking at that 9 to 10 cent range.
Yeah.
Realistically, with the debt service for your dam. So
Let's say it again.
you're looking at 9 to 10 cents, not including what y'all have done, realistically,
If you take the dam.
because of the dam debt service. I should say the debt service for the dam.
Yeah.
So-
You got 3 cents is basically what you're saying, John, there.
3
Just-
cents.
Just for the damn $5 million, whatever it's been. So we kind of take 3 cents
That's what I
out.
thought was about 3 cents
3
for
cents.
Yeah.
the damn debt service.
So the 150 reduction, will the dredging grant be added to that reduction to accumulate, to actually make a 3 cent in effect reduction? Will that be create a 3 cent reduction or just a almost 2 cent?
Yeah,
A little under two.
a little under two.
Okay.
Yeah,
84,
because it's 150 for 160,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm following you. Again, it's been a long
Well, you got the
night, so-
150 plus for the dredging
That's
added
right.
to the revenue.
Yeah,
And
those-
taking out 150 expense,
that's 3.
that's 300,000.
And
That's
84
correct.
So is that gonna give us 3 cent reduction in proposed tax, or 4, or
Eight.
just 2?
Close to 4.
8, 16, 24 is 250,000 roughly. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So 250,000 is roughly about 3 cents.
Right, I got it,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Now, I think the other thing, just to recognize conceptually is if we have not had a tax increase in the town in a number of years now, right? And
Yes.
it's not something probably we want to get into a pattern of doing frequently. And so in terms of, this is a one-year budget, and we're looking at trying to cover what we sense are the deficit this year for this budget. And we don't really have the information to go out, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But we do have some of these longer-term projects factored in here, like the marina project that have recurring costs, and the dredging and the dam thing. So can we think of any, other expenses that may pop up next year or the year after that would cause us to have to come back and revisit this for some reason as a deficit budget, and again, have to consider taxes. I would prefer to just deal with this year and at least have a stable for several years and maybe forever in terms of a rate.
You know, as y'all likely know, there's two school of thoughts. One is when you look at a financial plan for the town, some boards choose to do smaller increments over a shorter period of time to help cover operations, insurance costs, personnel costs, and to help with your capital costs. Some boards wait and plan larger increases in increments, and so that's something we will work with you as we continue to move forward with financial planning, is to get you in some type of normal rhythm where folks can expect either increases or you know, other revenue sources that we can count on. And you'll look at some of these projects, and the challenge for us right now is that some of these projects will likely bring in additional revenue sources, and that would be nice, but we can only suggest raising taxes once a year, and that's right now, before June 30th, with the adoption of a new budget. So we would rather go ahead and suggest adopting let's just say the 3 cents or whatever it is, and then be fortunate in getting other revenue sources, and then you can look at either a reduction the following year if those revenue sources pan out. Say you receive a grant that will cover the dam repair costs, and then that way you can readjust your tax rate, you know, based on that secured revenue source. We always want to be very conservative when we talk about revenues.
The one, I understand where you're coming from, Kevin, that makes a lot of sense. But the one danger in it is like what happened when we did the 3 cent increase that was supposed to go entirely for capital improvements. Well, it did, but the other money we've been spending for capital improvements started going to other things. So really, we didn't do what we said we were going to do. So I would, if the money's there, it's easy to spend.
And we have some opportunity to earmark it, right? I mean, to
With your capital project funds, yes.
create a lockbox in a sense.
That was
Fund, you know what I'm saying, segregated.
Well, that's what John's talking about. I wasn't on council. I was running for election. That was in 2013, and they thought they earmarked it at that point in time.
We did.
It was voted for that way.
And then it just got.
And John says capital improvements. That's what it turned out to be. It was specifically for infrastructure.
Yep.
And you know, sewer and that kind of, and that's what was discussed.
Yep.
And it turned out to be for all sorts of, whatever capital improvements, even technology type and capital improvements, and it was used for that. So, that was not the intent of that discussion.
So is there a way, Sam, or to really sequester this stuff? I mean, to learn from that experience and you know, be able to present this as a basis for a tax increase and then sequester those funds?
I'll just say, I mean, Sam, jump in here, but 3 cents does go towards your capital projects fund. So you will see even in this budget that 3 cents of that money, roughly $250,000, is going into that capital projects fund. And then my guess is, Sam, that the board then decides where that $250,000 will go.
It's all up to you.
Yeah. So
that money is put away in council.
So like John's saying, supposing we did that, and there's 3 cents put in the capital fund in our budget this year, and then lo and behold, we turn around and get this grant, and it covers those 3 cents. I think John's saying, well, okay, so what happened to that 3 cents? Is that just simply going to go in the pot, and then it'll get rated, you know, by other capital projects that we may not have agreed to fund, but hey, the money's there, so.
Well, again, if that were to happen, we would ask you to reallocate those funds, and if the board didn't choose to do that, then it would sit in your general fund balance and be reallocated. The board has that authority to take money from their project fund and reallocate that. So we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Well, it brings to mind one other point that I made when we were meeting at the Equestrian Center, was when this business came up of the technology or the software upgrades to the boat registration system. We ended up spending, what was it, $75,000 or so that nobody had budgeted, nobody said would be there. What specifically has been done to ensure that something like that does not happen again?
Well, I think there are better controls in place from an administrative standpoint that I hope, Sam,
Well, money can't be spent until it's appropriated, so that instance, I've been here for almost 30 years, it's never happened like that. We had a town manager leaving at a project, and we were gonna do the budget adjustment after the project was, that's how that happened.
So, tell me that again.
We did the budget adjustment after the project was finished.
And
normally that project,
When we found out about it as a town council, the money had been spent.
that's correct.
And we had allocated, Stephen, you better remember numbers than I am. Was it 20, what was it we had allocated?
started out allocated 13,000. They
Yeah.
came back in October, I think, and asked for another 15,000. And then somewhere along the line, and Sam helped me, is when Chris left in March, by that time it was up to 50, 60, 70,000 on what they were billing us for, and I don't know if you had already paid any of those bills or not. But what led to that is obviously doing the budget adjustment or allocation after the fact, and instead of knowing it beforehand, or that it was even coming.
Yeah.
So
Council
My
never
point is-
approved those extra monies.
I'm sorry.
Council never approved or knew about those extra monies.
We never knew about it. We had set aside a certain amount of money and had every reason to believe that was all that would be spent, because they came in and said, can we have this amount of money for this project? We said, okay, you can have this amount of money for that project. And then the next we hear anything about it is at that budget meeting, when I asked how much to spend, and the response was, you don't want to know. And I said, au contraire, I do want to know. So I'm not trying to point a finger at anyone, but I do want to I want to make sure that we as a group have an understanding going forward of how that happened and what is in place to prevent that from happening again. Because I've asked about that several times and I've never really gotten a firm answer on what is different now than there was then. I understand the town manager left and maybe he had made some commitments that we felt obligated to honor, whatever it was. I don't know what it was.
if I can help on that, one lesson learned is we don't let the town manager negotiate a contract with a friend, because that's what happened that created that contract. So that's one lesson learned. Now, I'm not pointing fingers either, and I'm not saying Ron's ever tried to do that. I'm just saying that's one thing we make sure never happens again. And two, Sam, be very alert, to any kind any kind of expenses or bills over and above a contract. Let us know immediately.
Yeah, Sam, you take care of the finances, write checks, so forth. Tell us what we can do to make sure that, when we're all gone from here years down the road and there's somebody else here, there's something in place that prevents that from happening again.
Well, money has to be appropriated for it to be spent. Now, if a bill comes in, I will either have a department head sign off on it. If it's over budget, I won't pay it. I'll go to the manager. It kind of happened with Dr. Dan. He had a couple bills in there, and we didn't have an appropriation for it. And so we went back and he approved the contract. But that's the checks and balances.
Okay. Was the overage on the contract we're talking about now appropriated when the check was written?
That situation was that this project had to be done, and I was going to wait until after the project was done to do the
On the database. Okay, and that was, and a lot of the problem that ran into it, nobody could ever agree on what satisfied project completion. And they said, oh, well, we're done. Oh, no, we're not. Oh, well, we got this. Well, no, you don't. You know.
Well, as a council, we don't typically get into the nitty-gritty of it like that. We say, okay, you can have this much money for this project, and should know at that point that some research has been done, and that's the amount of money that would be need to.
It was a time-use contract that was it was a custom program. I don't think Chris ever had a definite amount. He probably had a ballpark up to 80,000 probably for the whole thing, but I'm not sure what was discussed between Chris and you.
But when it came to
So
council.
basically, the contractor thought he had carte blanche. He's going to send a bill, and he didn't know that he had a $20,000 limit or whatever it was.
It was a custom program, and they were going. They were going along with it, and he would write a program, or he would write the program, and we'd come back, and there would be some problems with it, and then he would rewrite it again, and there would be some more problems, some glitches, and he'd come back, and it was a custom program.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm not familiar with those.
Yeah, I understand that, but it was going to be, you know, maybe you didn't know exactly what the cost was going to be going in, but we had an agreement up to a certain amount that we had allocated.
Right.
And at some point, either that guy didn't understand that if he billed more than $20,000, he may or may not get his money, that we may or may not appropriate it, or he was under the impression that I'll bill it and they're going to take care of it. So I don't know which it was.
Yeah. I think that if I had to characterize what I'm hearing, because I wasn't on council, but
Yeah.
this was a project management problem, not a financial problem. And it was the way in which that contractor was managed under their contract that allowed that kind of roll-up to occur, that put us in a position afterwards of having to pay a bill. And I've been on the other side of that table and tried to get clear direction from a council and got none, and then they turn around and say, well, we didn't expect you were going to spend this kind of money. And you know, there's the implied contract law, and if you are going down that path, and by your actions agreeing to the performance of those services, that obligates us to have to pay that bill at the end. We don't have a choice to not pay a bill. So that's just an area I think we're aware. You know, project management, important skill set. And particularly in these big projects, that could be a $500,000 overrun on a dam project very easily. So that's why we're looking at getting some work.
Yeah, and there should be a trigger in there somewhere to alert council that something like that is going on, so that we can come in and make a decision. Well, is this something we want to continue with or no? But I think we need to plug this hole that it allowed in at least one case money to be spent that wasn't appropriated, and then like Kevin said, I'm sure we were obligated to pay that.
Yeah, we were talking a good close to 50,000, if not more than that, over and above what had been allocated. And depending on, I discovered it is after Chris had left, and when I started talking to Sam about it, and then we finally got it resolved. What was it, by the end of the year, by the June budget or July budget, or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Well, I think that's a good issue worth noting. Ron, did you have something else that you were going to bring up or share, or Dustin, is this?
We just heard that Dustin and I may be pulled away here shortly, so.
You have an emergency meeting kind of?
Not emergency, newscast.
Oh,
What?
CNN.
I didn't hear.
Newscast.
CNN,
Oh, news.
Area View.
They don't tell the truth anyway.
That's fake news anyway. Yeah, I'll say it, that's fake news.
What Commissioner Weber meant to say.
So, I was looking for it and I can't find it. What are we planning on spending on this strip mall redevelopment for this coming year in this budget? I know it's under a project ordinance and we would have to redo that. And
Yeah, again, there's, yeah. You are under a project ordinance. You have a revenue for that project ordinance and you have the expenditure side of that project ordinance. This is a good example of how the project ordinance works. If, in a case of a project overrun where you're expecting it, a budget amendment would be brought back for the project ordinance. You would have to amend that ordinance. In this case, the only likely revenue source that you're going to be looking at is debt service. So your first part of that debt service will probably have to refinance, will wash. So you will not have a budget effect until your first debt service payment, which will likely be the next year. So again, it's not a cash outlay, and that's
Okay.
what I've been trying to convince people.
Okay.
It is a debt service, and it will happen after your loan proceeds come through. So the board will have to make that decision at some point whether they want to put additional money into that project, and if so, we will likely have to either refinance that loan or find other loan proceeds for that project.
so the chances of it affecting this year's budget are slim?
No, it washes your first year. So,
Okay.
so your debt service payment is just like several other projects we have this year. That your, water and sewer project, or I'm sorry, your sewer project is a complete wash. That's a $12.5 million wash.
Oh, all of our water and sewer was completely washed.
Oh, it was. That's right.
So, that's
your
no
your
problem.
dam project is another example. That's a $5 million, and then you're going to see that debt service payment.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
Okay.
All right, now I understand that, because I was looking to see if there's something we could possibly delay on that would affect.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything further that we want to try to accomplish today on the budget? If not, I would entertain at least a discussion about what the next step might be.
Well, we've got some new folks that have joined us.
Do we want to handle their items? Chief is here. We
Yeah.
can do the police. I mean, we almost did that a
We
minute
have Dale,
ago.
we have Dale here from the golf course.
Dale is here, yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that's what we want to do or not. So,
Well, they're here. Ron, would it be good for us to try
Ron's
to knock
gotta go.
these out? or-
No, I mean, what I would say is under police department, you're
Yeah.
looking at $2,700, and golf is under a contract, so it really doesn't have an effect on the numbers that y'all are considering. So very little operational costs. And again, I would just agree with the mayor that the money that y'all are looking to find is better, your time is better spent in the personnel and capital outlay areas.
Yeah. Oh, I'm okay with the golf and actually the police. Even that 2,200 contract services, what contract services are those? Cleaning?
What you're talking about.
It shows
Do you know, Ron, what that is?
I think you had a contract with a vendor that was actually reduced. I think it was some computer equipment.
Yeah, in an effort to reduce what I could, I had some, what's called Leads Online, a software program where it allows investigators to see what's pawned across the nation in pawn stores. Costs $1,700. It's one of them, when we need it, it's gold mine, but we don't need it a lot, so in an effort, I sort of pulled that off the table to save money.
Appreciate that.
yeah.
How often do you think you use it a year?
It's like a lot of things, my budget fluctuates. One of the biggest cases we ever saw when Andy Greenway was here was the flat screen TVs. A lot of y'all probably remember it.
Yeah.
It's all basically solely on this program. But this year, it's one of them I've sort of watched year to year. And this past year, I might have used it a handful of times. So when the town manager come back and said, is there anything else we can do? I sort of pulled the trigger, so to speak, on that and said, well, we can do without this year. I can probably call the county. I think they've got it as well. I'm sure they'd let me borrow it if it come that time. And if we start getting more B&Es, maybe the next year. It's one of the things, once I cancel it, it's not an extra fee to sign back on or anything like that. I can pick it up the following year.
Yeah, I know it was really helpful during all those Holmes Road break-ins in that area.
Yeah,
very helpful then.
I know there was some conversation about maybe adding some different cameras around town. Can you do that with this budget?
Probably not.
You think that's important?
Which ones are you talking about?
Maybe around the dam?
I think
Secure.
Public Works is looking at,
So expense would fall onto them, so it wouldn't, okay.
David-
Yeah, because I think
David-
that's important to
they
have
come
that.
to me, only part I played in that is I know the guy that installed all our camera systems, and he had asked me, and I've actually supposed to have a meeting with David just to sort of, bring them two together.
Okay.
Into this week.
David and
Okay.
I talked about that yesterday. Actually, cameras on the dam and cameras in the control room and
Yeah.
the generation. So
asked-
David's working on that now.
He has to place them in the PD where we can observe it.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got what you need in your office to observe now. It's just the expense of getting the cameras out and getting the feed to you. Okay. All right.
With the rising fuel prices, do you really think you could afford to cut $500 on fuel for the year?
Me and Sam's went back and forth, with that last few years. A lot of times we go in and see what we spent last year. Try to always keep a cushion.
Yeah.
From what it's trending right now, we look like a $5,000 cushion, even with the, right around that mark, even with the 500 lower. It's scary. I mean, I was trying to.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
All right.
That's what I was thinking. I wouldn't want to cut that. I would say
appreciate
leave that in.
Yeah. If you ended up ahead this year, not spending as much as was budgeted, does that carry over? Or is that just, no? Okay, so,
Everything is at June 30th.
yeah, I agree with Stephen then. We probably need to, you want to make sure you got enough in there.
Yeah, I'm
I
okay.
appreciate that.
I'm okay with the contract services cut, but the fuel, I would recommend you keep.
Yeah.
What he's got in contractual services, software, hardware, copier maintenance, and cleaning this side of the building. That's what's in there.
As long as you're comfortable with that, chief.
You okay? Okay.
Rod, who does the cleaning service for the town hall?
Help me out on the name.
Lynn Bueno,
Point.
and she's been ill.
Is that something that goes out for bids?
I don't know. Sam, is that ever going out?
Hasn't for a while. It's problem in this area is trying to find it.
Most of them are so cheap.
We interviewed a few people and they didn't work out, as good as Lynn, so we sort of piggybacked off the town hall since she's already.
And I don't know if she still has the same, does she have the same contract for the lake operations building? And I assume her husband, Paul's been doing the work, I think, with her being medically incapacitated.
I've seen her a couple of times, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's Paul that's doing it.
And my question would be, has he been vetted as well as she was prior to the contract? What do we do for substitutes?
Yeah. They have insurance, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and we're good with golf? Is anybody
Yeah,
have any
golf
questions?
is
for-
all
That's all
contract
contract.
anyway.
Good for golf?
Thank you very much.
Just nice to see you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
it.
I appreciate everything you guys do to help us out.
But you didn't bring us anything to eat.
And thank you for the tractor.
Sorry.
Thank you for the
Uh,
tractor
Kathy,
last
I'm
night.
wondering-
And, and do we have anything further for Dustin and the fire? Are we good?
I
with-
don't.
We're good with that?
I'm fine with fire.
If you got any
Okay.
updates while we've been sitting here, you need to share with us at all?
Just CNN.
CNN's waiting on something.
Yep, we're
Okay,
good.
well, I guess that would wrap up the budget discussion. Now, what is the next, what is the next step?
DOT's on Main Street.
Oh, they are. Are they gonna do the culvert? Do you know?
They're doing their assessment, the supervisor on the
I haven't heard back from Peter O'Leary, but they got a culvert issue up there. So, what is it, what's the next step on this? What do we need to do?
Yeah, again, normally if this had been a regular budget meeting, I would have asked you to come to some type of conclusion for your presentation on June 12th, so that I can make that revised presentation from the recommended budget.
Well, you got two days.
So I've got two that I can do, but if there were any others, I would say that's what I'm preparing for. Otherwise, you will see the proposal for the 12 minus whatever. So what was that, between 9 and 10 cent proposal? And that's what I'll be presenting on June 12th to folks. And then just making sure that they realize that y'all will meet a number of times after that perhaps, and do additional work.
So are you gonna present June the 12th, the current budget, except with those two exceptions, or the current budget with all of these proposed cuts?
No, I would only present the two that you as a council have agreed on so far. It would be the proposed budget minus, right, and
Those two.
plus and minus those amounts.
Okay, and then the police department, we just, I thought we agreed on.
Right.
Yes, we did.
So $2,200?
Right, you know, leave the 5 there. The golf course would remain unchanged, and the fire department would remain unchanged. So that's 3 that's already agreed upon.
The 2,200 was the 517.
Oh, so it's 17.
17.
No, it had 22 and 5 here. 22 plus 5
So
here.
only taking out 17, is that what we're saying?
I put it in, 1,700 is what the software, I don't know. what
Oh,
the-
okay.
that-
So it's 17 and 5.
Yeah.
So it's 17 reduction. Okay, instead of, okay, got it. Thank you.
Don't let them steal those pennies from you.
What about on
They're
this?
too important.
That's right.
Police?
So we resolved the fire and police and golf.
Do we want to talk about the personnel that Ron says it indicates that's where we're going to make the biggest impact?
Yeah, there's like 4 job positions, right?
There's 3 full-time, 1 part-time that's been proposed.
Right.
And then, of course, we could spend a little bit of time on capital if you wanted to, because that's another larger ticket item. If you'll go to your list, you can see those prioritized for you, and you can pick and choose. You've already taken care of one of them, which is the $300,000.
Okay, well, we can't talk about Parks and Rec Director because Commissioner Moore asked last time more justification and job description and.
We're working on those, yes.
On that, and we don't have that in our packet, so
No.
we need to defer that one. The Parks and Rec, or the Public Works utility maintenance, and there's the salary on it.
With that one there, again, we're short-handed and
Say you want to wait until David's here, or, I mean, we already know he needs the help.
I don't see any reason to have David here. I know we need the position, and, I mean, it's just like Public Works is one that cleans this lake up.
Yeah. That's
Good
why,
luck- good
that's
luck
why I
with that.
recommended earlier, I would leave Public Works unchanged.
Right.
Because I'd hate to see him try to cut it, the help that he does need so bad.
Well, he just doesn't have what he needs already, so I'm with you.
But that does not mean he still keeps the part-time position we authorized at the retreat. That goes away, and he gets the full-time, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
With that, if we do it that way, if we do away with the part-time and replace that with full-time, what's the net effect?
None, because that part-time was only budgeted until the end of the fiscal year. Is that right, Sam?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we authorized it for 6 months,
Yeah, to the end of the year.
starting
Right,
in March.
right, it ends June 30th. I mean, that's the way y'all had sort of left
Fiscal
it.
year.
Okay, so
The
we had
fiscal
not
year.
budgeted that last year, that was an addition that we.
That you added at the board retreat.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was done at the.
Retreat.
retreat.
All right, when we did,
Actually, John, next meeting, we'll have a budget adjustment for that.
Okay, but we had, we were ahead of budget enough to cover that with, I guess we were coming in under budget enough that we had funds there to pay for that, or where did that money come from?
It wasn't budgeted.
Right,
It was actually kind of like an emergency position.
okay,
It was during the sewer
Right.
leak, and David needed help, so we hired that. I think it was, I just did the memo, it might be around 15,000.
okay, where did the money come from? Was that out of reserve?
Come from the fund balance.
From the reserve?
Right.
Okay,
There was no extra project
Okay.
or something that we're
there was, yeah.
moving.
Well, that brings to mind one other question. Here near the end of the year, I know there have been times when, we usually end up making a lot of budget adjustments near the end. Do you have off the top of your head an idea of where each department is hitting with their budget? We've got, we know that one would have been at least 15 over because of the extra part-time person, but where are the rest of them?
In the general fund, there aren't, I think all the departments will come close.
So there's not a really appreciable over or under anywhere.
In the sewer and the hydro, we're gonna have major budget adjustments.
Which way?
Well, the sewer, we've had,
Chemicals and then the hauling.
chemicals, sludge hauling, something at John Wilson's time. We're all gonna have to put money in. I don't know how much, it's significant, it's more than $100,000. In the hydroelectric, we're looking at a shortfall of around $300,000.
Is that, is a lot of that because of the generator?
The small generator was not budgeted, and I think we're at maybe $275,000 this year we spent on that, which also affects John Wilson's time. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, those were those two issues.
Okay, so John Wilson helps at both the dam and the sewer plant.
He helps strictly at the dam.
Okay, all right. So the, all right, and then we also would have had less income because of that generator being out, or?
Actually, we just received a check yesterday at $61,000, which is, actually, our revenues are above our estimates. Not a lot, maybe around $50,000 over our estimates. It's the expense side.
We were quite conservative when we budgeted the electric.
Well, we've been pretty lucky considering he's only had that one big generator.
Yeah.
Yep.
All this extra rain.
Okay.
So bottom line is the part-time will not affect this budget.
I've got a note here to check that, but I think that's an accurate statement, yes.
Okay. So the money we're showing here for Public Works is more than likely correct if that does not affect it for the budget. Yeah, once again, I'd say leave Public Works as originally presented, in my opinion. I don't know if everybody agrees or not.
He's been shorthanded for years, so. And letting, like I said, somebody's gotta clean this lake up and do their normal work too.
Yeah.
They'll never get it all done.
Do I need to make a motion for agreement or disagreement on that one item?
I'm okay with the Public Works. I have a lot of confidence in David's ability to make sure that he's, that's work that, or a position that's needed. But as far as the Parks Director, I still want to see the job description and the justification for that.
Okay.
So we're gonna leave Parks and Rec as is, Public Works as is, on your sheet, right?
Right now, we've got police, fire, and public works, and golf leaving as is.
What I'd like to do, just to address Commissioner Weber's suggestion there, I think at some point, we'll finish this discussion, and we've got a list of things that we've agreed to, in a sense, up there. And I would like at the end then to have just a complete motion that addresses those things, the Public Works budget, anything at the police, anything else that we've decided, so we can set that behind us, and then we could just focus on the things that are pending, okay?
Yeah, and again, this is just to record the changes from your proposed budget. So
Yeah.
if Public Works doesn't change, I'm not gonna put it up here. I've
Right.
made a note.
Okay.
But we can memorialize that in a
Yeah.
motion.
I don't think you need to.
You don't think we need to?
Right, I think what you're doing is is
Right.
coming up with those
Input?
adjustments.
Yeah.
We're just kind of coming up with agreements among ourselves, and at some point, we'll say, okay, we're all in on this budget.
Exactly.
Okay.
I
That's
would
when we'll do our
eliminate,
motion.
I would eliminate the civil engineer for this year. Yes, there's some possible benefits to having such a person on staff for projects. We still don't know what those are potentially going to be or could be.
We have a better idea.
Well, we do.
but-
And here's what I was going to suggest we do, and it almost is like an elimination. I think this position, we've had this discussion before, it's a very project timing sensitive position. And just like, and it will be for the dam, and it'll be for the sewer, and there is a possibility we could use it for other major capital projects. I don't know if the strip center would rise to something like that. But here's my thinking is, it's probably a 5-year need. And after that, I don't suspect, I think that need will go away when these major capital projects, it's not something a small town like this would normally have. In that regard, then, I think we should treat that in a similar fashion that we treat the actual projects themselves. These are renovations or replacements that have long life expectancies associated with it, and we do it by long-term financing, by debt financing or other grant or finance. And I think we should view this position in the same way, and I think the funding for it should come from those project financing mechanisms. Does that make sense?
Are you getting at, more or less, could we like hire this guy or this person?
Contract?
On a project type ordinance with specific projects
That's what I'm
identified in
thinking.
the ordinance?
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking.
So that we don't have to we don't have to add another position, we don't have to fund it out of the operating budget, we can fund it out of the project budgets and do it with debt service so we can take it off.
Ideally, this guy should be doing some of the, I mean, him being involved should pull some of the expense out of the budget, so he should be covering his own.
We are thinking
Yeah.
so, yeah, so
Right.
that we reduce. The
So
other
it's really
thing.
it's really not an addition at all, if you look at it in those terms. It's a part of what we need to do this project, and the project isn't costing us any more by having that there.
Correct. At least, it'll be less. I don't know if we'll cover it completely, because there are some things, in-house things that normally a contractor wouldn't do, that we can.
Well,
And the other thing, Ron, we have not had this discussion, and we are labeling this position as engineer. I really haven't spoken to you about this, but I'll bring it up now with the commission. I think that the particular qualifications that I think would be most important in this position to us in terms of managing these projects would come during the construction phase. And I really think the background of a person like this, rather than being an engineer, really should have a contractor or construction background. So I just hesitate as we go forward to try to look at recruiting or hiring or whatever, that we look for somebody with that kind of background that's used to working in the construction contract arena. And engineers typically don't.
Project manager type.
Project manager, we call, background though would not be
and
a traditional engineer.
Yeah, and if so, the grade and the money would more than likely change
Project
accordingly.
managers can be
Yeah,
They're pretty
in
heavy.
that same.
depending, yeah.
Okay,
Can be.
that's my input on that. So that would be one that we could
Drop off.
drop off.
Yeah, because
That's one penny right there.
yeah, that would be a temporary position, and handling it that way would be great as far as I'm concerned.
If we do it that way, is it a line item in this budget, or is it just part of the,
Capital.
of the capital expense we're looking at for the dam and the sewer?
Well, what I'd likely do is, I will remove the 87,000 in salaries and benefits for that position, and then we'll bring it back in when we talk about the capital project.
Right, there may be a small increment on the debt service. Is that what we're thinking? It would be minimal though, I think.
While you're writing, if we could jump real quick under the commission, the fireworks, is that taking away the 5,000 that we always give the chamber?
It would be, no.
It's 10,000.
Yeah, that's in addition to what you give to.
The chamber does that event, and that's the 5,000 that we contribute, and Chimney Rock, I think, generally kicks in 1,500 or so for fireworks.
Right.
And so there's a total bill of somewhere around 6-7 grand that we, so that's an event fee, Commissioner Weber, not the $10,000 that we give the chamber, which is for economic development and, chamber support. That's under economic development, I believe.
Shows 5,000 for supplies and materials. Okay? For fireworks. Under supplies and materials for fireworks, 5,000.
4,000.
It says 5,000 on the page in front of me.
4,000 is what we give.
Well, there was 5,000 in the budget this year.
Looks like fine to me.
Yeah, I'm seeing.
4,000 is what we give
Yeah.
them. They put 5,000 in the budget, is what he just said.
Okay.
And
We
so
just wanna leave
5,000, 4,000 what we give them, 5,000 is what we're giving them in the budget. Who does that go to? The chamber?
Yeah, and the
Okay,
chamber
thank
passes
you.
it through to the fireworks contractors, is
Okay.
the way that works. yeah.
Okay, so without that $5,000.
Really what we're saying
There's no
is if-
fireworks,
if
yeah.
There's no fireworks.
Yeah.
If you don't want to have fireworks this year, we can cut it out of the
No,
budget.
we want fireworks.
No, see, so that's a cut I do not buy. I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, that's a big event. That's a heck of a big event.
I think we need to get a vote from Sean on that. Another expense that goes along with it is all the reserve officers that you bring in, which is, how much is that? Would just a ballpark?
$2,000-3,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's in
we're
your
looking
budget,
at
right?
probably an $8,000 expense. Yeah.
Then the other one under commission is salaries 13.2, a portion thereof. What portion are you cutting?
That'd be up to you. That's your salary.
Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, you can cut mine by 10%.
Yeah, he's not worth that.
So, I'm serious. That saves you $240 a year? I don't know if you can do different salaries for different commissioners, but I don't care.
No, we'd rather y'all vote on your
If we
salaries
asked all the
altogether.
departments cut 10%, you cut mine by 10%.
Well, actually, ours was cut in January of 2010 by over half when they did away with insurance. They used to get insurance, and all of the cost of living adjustments, whatever, none of them have affected town council since I've been on here. And I think that commissioners should get at least enough to cover part of their expenses. And I know everybody sitting at this table gives most of theirs back to the town in different ways. Contributions to the police department, the fire department, Hickory Nut, outreach, different, they give it back to the community. So I'd rather leave that like it is and let us continue to use that to give back as we see fit.
After taxes, about $185 a month.
184.
184, yeah.
My wife suggested if this came up for discussion that we eliminate the engineer 87,000 and put it over in commission salaries for the amount of time that I'm spending on this. So I'll let you call her and discuss it with us if you want to.
Again, when you asked for 10%, we just started grabbing, so.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if we cut 3% in commission salaries off, would we want to do that for all the other staff members? That probably wouldn't be real popular, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
No, I don't, no, I'm not proposing.
If that's proposal across the board, 10% to everybody, yeah, we could do.
I don't think that's realistic.
Okay.
Or legal, I don't know.
Hey, you suggested it's legal for us.
So I guess commission stays as is,
All right.
and that's another one decided.
Yes.
Central Services, you're the guy we talked to about that. Can you,
Did you skip administration on purpose?
no.
When you talk about the election services?
Yeah,
No
this is-
election this year.
There's an awful election, so that could almost be an automatic.
Is that, do we pay that to the Board of Elections?
Yes, sir.
And is that for having a polling place at the library,
Yes, sir.
which is not in the town of Lake Lure? It'd be great if we could have a polling place right here like we used to many years ago, because a lot of us old folks on this side of town have a hard time getting all the way over to the library.
Yeah, I think we
Well,
tried that
if
last
we-
year
if
and they
we-
wouldn't go for it.
Could we have another polling place here for another $2,500?
I don't know, I'll have to ask.
Yeah, that would be good to know, because, I think that would be money well spent, because,
Well,
yeah.
I hear you, John, but if we cut that 25, does that mean we're not gonna have the polling place here for the November elections for the county and state?
I don't think you can cut that out.
That's for the
It's
municipal charge.
contractual.
That's the municipal charge. We would have an election.
I thought the county charges us.
County charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, they charge us for taking our votes.
So we may not be able to cut that, because if that's for the Board of Election to have the polling place,
Yeah.
we're still got an election that's coming November, which is in that fiscal year.
If I'm correct, Sam, that check goes to Rutherford County or Rutherford County elections.
I thought that was just the municipal portion of the election.
They charge us.
Okay, so we leave administration as is.
That's,
Minus engineer.
that's a
Right.
$2,500 a year, and we have an election every other year, so really it's a $5,000 expense per election.
Central services, 1,000, that's not 10% of 101.
No, but most of that is a contract where we can't cut.
I got it.
That's the only one I'd like to see us in the future. Look to see if we can get that number down. That's basically $2,000 a week. To take care of our computers and IT services. Every week is $2,000.
If you really
It's a
feel
ton
we
of
can
money.
cut that 1,000, I'm okay.
I just want us to research it to get it down.
Yeah.
2,000 a week to take care of computers. Somebody's doing
It
quite
also
well.
includes telephone,
2,000 a week though,
20,000 a year.
for telephones?
Does that include all of them at the police department, fire department, everywhere? So in your fire department budget, you don't have a line item for telephone?
That's all the phone service for the total
whole
town and
town.
staff.
And I will say at 4 o'clock in the morning, if you have a problem, you call them.
Yeah, the Nixle and all that, is that included on that? The Nixle, whatever the emergency alert thing, like we did recently, is that in?
That's in, the code red is the hydroelectric charge and Nexel is a police charge.
But they do help if we have issues with the computers that operate, so.
Okay.
Does it include cell phones?
Yes.
Are there, is there only one contractor we can use for that, or is that something we can get prices on? We can bid?
Phones?
Well, the computer service, like
Yeah.
what we use here for,
Well, yeah, for phones too. We got more than one phone service here.
do we use Verizon for cell phones?
They pay a per diem to the employee.
So they use their own personal phones or just pay it per diem?
That's right.
I was just trying to save money. 2,000 a week's a lot of money for phone and IT.
Yeah.
So do we recommend central services stay as is, or take that 1,000 out that's proposed?
I think, well, I didn't hear an answer to, if that's something that we can put out for bids. Is it, Sam?
As far as I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm okay with leaving it where it is.
Our computers are,
Does that include the hardware or just the service to maintain it?
just the service.
Doesn't include the hardware. So it's a maintenance contract. Well, not the whole 100,000, 80,000,
68.4.
68.4 of that is just to maintain the computer.
It includes the cloud, it includes, includes the, support. I'm just concerned about the level of service. Is there another company who can provide the same thing as they do? I'm not sure.
Is some of this, like a contract where they would come out and make a repair if there's,
They come out, he was on site yesterday.
okay, all right.
Is that local? Who is that?
Asheville, AD&S, they're out of Asheville.
I don't know if you guys are aware, but we went from a system that was totally inside, and we have our own servers to.
Right.
Everything was taken and now is on a server in Asheville.
Yeah.
So this company owns all the hardware in Asheville, all the data, all our software programs are now on a computer in a server in Asheville.
Okay, so making a transition would be very difficult, sounds like.
I think that you're gonna be challenged to do
Yeah.
that. I think it's possible.
Okay.
So we leave central services as is for now?
Yeah, I think we leave it as is, but I think it's something, Sam, going forward, that is something we ought to just keep in mind and see if there's, make sure that just because we're more or less locked into this company that we don't overpay.
Well, I think we've been using them for about 3 or 4 years, and they haven't increased their price yet.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty important. That's of major importance.
Yeah.
Right there. I mean, that's major importance. It's major important to having been in that field for 25 years before I changed careers. It's major importance that you got somebody you can rely on. It's so.
Yeah.
So, if we're all in agreement on that, central services, that brings us down to sanitation and economic development, which both of them show no reductions due to contracts and previous commitments. We okay there?
Yep.
Yep.
Next is the problem area.
Next one's a problem area.
Community development.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's see.
So there's 3
Well,
items?
we have the
Yeah.
community development director here, staff person. Let's let him explain what he's proposing.
Or stand at the podium?
Wherever you feel more uncomfortable.
Yeah. No.
There are,
Look at you.
there are 3 items here that we've identified as potential reductions. Professional services for $25,000, travel and training at $200, and contract services at $10,000.
Explain
So,
those to us.
are there others? Would you like to explain?
Those?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Nelly and I spoke before you guys saw the manager's budget, and it was reduced by $11,000 before it was sent to you. And after it was sent to you, you asked for another 10%. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trading those goals that were submitted back to the manager in exchange for these cuts. Now what that means is we're basically strictly operations. But I would say that what we could do, like we have been doing, is that we shift more to project management type functions, and that's certainly something I'm capable of doing. But we just don't have the extra money to do, the planning piece, which includes the nice site plans and those things when we have projects come up. So basically all that money has been eliminated.
Shannon, would you say we're a little bit ahead of the curve on our planning? Because I know we've had such wonderful planning over the last several years that we've got a lot out there.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Your first one was professional services 25, and you show that as comp plan implementation. You recommended 30, manager recommended 25, and you're proposing now to cut that.
Right.
So how does that hurt us on our comp plan? Well, is that telling me that nothing will be done as far as implementation of the plan with that cut?
No, there are some things that we can do, and that's included in our planning board work plan that you guys approved. So there'll be some amendments and things. housekeeping type things that we can do to implement. Some of those things are recommended in the comp plan. But there'll be, you know, there basically not going to be any planning, pictures, maps, except
Process.
for what comes out of the project that the manager really is overseeing right now with Destination by Design.
Okay.
But then I think it's a good time for us to take those and convert those into projects, bricks and mortar type projects. And that means we manage those from a project management perspective.
Okay, so you're shifting a bit from planning
That's
into
right.
implementation.
Less cartoons and more bricks and mortar.
Yep, okay.
I assume your travel and training this year would include Clint.
Yes.
Since the reorganization is that he would move to you.
That's right.
And I think the decision was July the 1st to actually make that with a new budget.
That's right.
Does that include him going to the lake management training this
Yes.
year?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was gonna get to that along with Lake Ops. I have yet to see a requirement or a mandate from whoever would provide it on the fact that we need to send both to both events every year. One is the North Carolina Lake Management Society, the other one is the North American Lake Management Society Convention or Conference. There's two different conferences, two different places each year, and we've been sending both individuals each year. And I don't know, I'm looking for a mandate, a written requirement that says that you have to have continuing education and so much to maintain your certification or whatever that justifies that expense every single year. So with regard to your budget and yours, I'm looking at that.
Well, I think,
And so,
I think what my budget is a reflection of is when Mr. Nally, myself, Dean met to decide how we split the baby based on the board's directive
Right.
that July 1st, Calhoun comes to my department, Dean goes to Parks and Rec. And the agreement, I think the gentleman's agreement on the inside was that for Clint basically gets to keep the same professional development focus as he had while he was in lake operations. Now, if the board wants to make a different, take a different position, or to have a different perspective, that's, I guess that's why we're
and I
doing it.
can understand that negotiation among the three and doing the reorg, but once again, I'm looking for a mandate that requires that certification every single year, or that training attendance every single year. Or one go to the North Carolina, one go to the national, or the North American, and the next year vice versa, but even that would save money. So
I guess I'd like to, along that same line is, and this probably would go to Ron, how many of our staff members that we have, whether they be department heads or staff members, have designations or mandates or requirements that they have to have continuing education? I know for sure in Sean's case
I was
that's
going to say police, fire, public works, and I'm not sure about lake management off the top of my head, but
In my job description, when it was drawn up for this position, it says in there that they wanted me to be certified lake manager. The only way to get certified is through NOMS, the North American Lake Management Society. Well, you're certified for 3 years, and you have to have continuing education credits that are not offered in colleges. It's offered only through the North American Lake Management by attending their symposiums.
there's no online
No, sir.
way to get that online?
No, sir. It's through your attending the North Carolina Lake Management Society things, which are usually only one-nighters for the North Carolina Lake Management. Usually you can drive your car there, get a hotel, stay the night, do the class, and drive home the next day. NOMS, the mother company that we're actually certified through as lake managers, is one that they move around from state to state. We usually have to take airfare to get there or whatever, but that's the only way we can continue those hours. Now, if this board decides we don't think you need a certification as a lake manager, then you can wipe all of that away.
Well, and I'm not saying that, but it's just what you said is the job description requires you to be a certified lake manager, and you can only get that through NOMS, then, and you have to have so many hours of continuing. What document, what mandate says you have to have so many hours and how often in order to maintain your certification? If your certification is valid for 3 years and you renew it in 3 years, do you have to do so much each year or only for prep for the renewal?
Within that 3 years, I have to have so many hours of continuing education, and it takes that much time of doing these attendances to get that. I can give you the information that says you need so many
That's
CEUs.
what we're looking for.
And I can get that for you.
That's what we're looking for.
Can you also give us, give us some kind of documentation of how the town benefits from having from you having that certification?
Yeah.
I can see what I can find. I don't,
Well, I mean, can you tell us now how the benefit to the town for having our lake management officer being certified through that program?
well, I'd say the biggest benefit of me being certified, it's not necessarily the certification, but by going to these symposiums and stuff, I make a lot of contacts of people who know about the lake, and I've started building a database of if something's going wrong with the water quality or something's going wrong with our lake, I can pick up the phone and I can call somebody who's dealt with it and knows how to do it. As far as the title, having a lake manager, I think it's just, a certified lake manager through NOMS, I think it's just it's a nice to have. Hey, we have a nationally certified lake manager. But as far as a benefit that says it has to be this, I don't see it.
I mean, do we get any extra advertising out of it? Do they broadcast throughout North America which lakes have certified managers, anything like that?
On their website, it'll show who has certified lake managers, and we're listed on there. And I get calls the same way as I network with them. I get phone calls from people all the time saying, hey, we hear Lake Lure is huge into dredging. Our lake's getting ready to start dredging, we need help. And so it's just a interchange of information and stuff, basically. As far as what the benefit is, dollar for dollar or whatever, I think it's just saying there's 4 certified lake managers in the state of North Carolina, and 2 of them work for Lake Lure. So, it was in there when I came here.
Right.
They told me I had to go get it. I went and got it, and I've just been keeping it up. And it's simply by going to these symposiums.
There's 4 in North Carolina, and we got 2 of them.
Yes, sir.
How many is there nationwide?
I'm not for sure about nationwide. It gets big.
And now with the reorganization, do we need 2? Do we need Clint to maintain his lake manager certification, being in community development? It's just a question for thought.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back on, I appreciate that, Dean. I'd like to get back on track with also regard to the certifications you have to have in zoning and community development.
Okay. Well, we have, currently we have 4 certifications that we maintain in our department. I'm AICP, which stands for American Institute of Certified Planners. So that's a certification that I have and I maintain, and it's part of the position description. I'm also certified as a zoning administrator. It's a position that I've done, and I also have to attend zoning administration workshops for credits to maintain that. And if I don't maintain certification through those, then those are in jeopardy. And all those are in North Carolina. So there are no out-of-state requirements for those 2 certifications. Brad is CZO as well, as a zoning administrator, and he's also certified as a floodplain manager. So those are two certifications that Brad has. Clint, technically right now, is our floodplain manager, and I do not believe Clint is certified as a floodplain manager. But he does go to those workshops. He is certified in a couple of other areas in addition to the lake.
Did you say Brad is certified?
Brad is certified as a floodplain manager, yes. CFM and CZO.
And when the restructure's done, you have plans to move that, since you, is there a need for both of them to be certified as a floodplain manager?
Well, no, if you know, would be something we would need to talk to Brad about, but if we were to transfer, say, floodplain management to Brad under his certification, you certainly could do that. But you don't have to be CFM in order to be a floodplain manager, which Clint is. He is our official floodplain
But the two can complement each other.
Oh, absolutely.
Greatly.
And that's what
even
we've
help
talked
us
about.
with regard to things like this board camp.
That's exactly right. And Brad is extremely proficient in that field, and certainly if there's an issue that comes up, Clint picks up the phone, calls Brad, and they have a great conversation. They usually figure things out, so works well together.
Well, if you cut the 200 out of your travel and training, that'd leave you, it looks like altogether 5,300. Were you planning on sending Clint to a floodplain management course to get a certification on this? Or?
Those are usually, as Dean mentioned a moment ago, in-state for those types of things. You usually can go one day and get what you need to drive back.
Okay.
Sometimes they're on the coast, which means an overnight stay.
Well, I'm in favor of all employees getting all the professional development they can. But I'm also I want to make sure we don't waste money needlessly doing things where we don't need it. We do it to suit the needs of the town and the staff departments they're in, and so on.
I would say in the future, the only thing that I probably would look toward, and I mentioned this to both Dean and to Ron when we met and tried to split the baby, is that we send Clint to zoning administration school. If he's in the department, oftentimes Brad's out. Clint certainly could fill in for that and supplement what Brad does. So I think we're setting ourselves up to make sure that we get ample coverage when it comes to code enforcement. But if, you know, it depends on what happens with Lake Operations Department and how the town moves in certain directions, but certainly from a departmental perspective, I think that having Clint certified as a zoning administrator could give us some redundancy and some needed backup relative to zoning administration. But that's in the future.
Which contract, are you taking the contract 10,000 out of planning? You had 16? You had two different contract services?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I have a question on that. What does that leave your contractual services at if you take 10,000 out?
Let's see. We've got
GIS maintenance. We have a copier fee. We have upgrade to GIS 10.
Right.
What is
Right.
that?
So we
also have lake testing in there that we bring over with Clint, and that's about $10,000.
What is that? Lake test?
Water testing.
Water samples. So we're moving that out of lake? Why? Why are we moving the water testing just because that person's moving?
Actually, we didn't. The testing remained in lake management.
The expense remains under lake.
So Sam, there's two line items for contractual services. One is for equipment and one is for planning. And what I was proposing was the cut in the line item 698, not 691.
That makes sense to you, Sam?
Yeah. So when you say contractual services 10,000, that's really 691, not 698.
No, both of them are
698,
contract.
not
698 is the one that's being cut, not 691.
This shows 698 as contract also for planning. The other one's contract services for equipment.
So we're cutting the planning line item,
Okay.
contractual services.
And you can live without that?
I can if you can.
Well, anytime you can reduce, I can live with that, but I don't know with you.
We can do it, we can do it. I think what I need to be upfront about and get a head nod from our town manager is some of the lofty goals that we've set require this kind of professional assistance.
Right.
If you can relieve me of attaining those goals and let us just focus on operations, I'm certainly fine with that. Mr. Town Manager?
So I guess what would we lose by cutting that 10?
I think to go back to Commissioner Moore's comment that we are, we're where we need to be and a little ahead when it comes to planning.
We've got plenty of projects planned.
Right.
We just need to execute and get them done.
Right.
We need to focus on doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Which means bricks and mortar.
Okay. All right, then I'm fine with that. I'm fine with all your proposed cuts. Anybody else?
All right.
If Shannon's willing to
So
give
we're
it
gonna-
up, we'll do it.
We'll add them to add those to our list.
So we accept community
appreciate
development with the
your,
proposed cuts. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple of other things in his department or your department. One is the proposed part-time position, permitting technician. The last, Ron, if I recall, if you got a second, the last I recall you briefed us was that you did not feel that a board clerk or permitting, part-time permitting technician, whatever was needed, but yet it's in the budget. So I guess.
Right, again.
The update on why now we're getting the proposal and it was not needed the last time we heard.
Right.
So.
If you'll recall, when I first made the statements about all the staffing needs, we have some commissioners that are in favor of those and some that are not. And so I did not spend the time to pick and choose. What I did is put every single position under consideration for the board's review. If you want me to take a stand on whether or not the positions are needed, I'll be glad to do that. But again, I was leaving that decision up to town council.
Well, what I would like to add is my budget submittal to the town manager was only a $5,000, $6,000 request so that I could get clerk support for our boards. I didn't add the money to it to bring it to 14. That was done by the town manager.
Yeah, again, you have to have the salary and benefits, and you have to pay a certain amount based on the level for the starting salary. So when you do that and you do it for the number of hours, it comes out to about $14,000.
Well,
now,
I just want to echo.
Okay,
I didn't ask for 14. I asked for 5.
Right.
And my hope was I could find somebody in town that could simply come to these board meetings and take some minutes, help with clerk duties. That doesn't require benefits. It doesn't
Were you looking for
require
a
the other
contract
badges.
type arrangement?
Yes.
I misspoke. It wasn't benefits. It was salaries and FICA. So
I'm looking for contractual type.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
but according to our pay scale and our pay plan, we pay a minimum amount for that same type of position. So,
But
now-
do we have to, are we bound to that for a contract
It's
person?
not needed for contract.
To our own in-house salary scale?
It's completely up to y'all. If you rather look at contract, that's fine. This was presented as a part-time position, so.
Okay.
All right, and there's one other consideration that will affect this a little bit, is there's been some discussion of how much we really need the asset management board. Their original task has pretty much been completed, what we formed the board for to begin with. And a lot of the discussions in the last, over the last 6 months anyway, have been pretty much the same discussions that we were having in zoning and planning meetings by the same people with just 1 or 2 additional people there. So I talked with the chairman of that board, and
Charlie Ellis says that, you know, he's got reservations about how much that board is really needed. So that would take away part of the responsibilities or part of the job load for keeping these minutes.
Well, and based on the towns where I've served as a zoning administrator and planner before, we simply would pay somebody per meeting to come in and take the minutes. They would submit those minutes back to me. I'd take a look at those and forward those onto the board. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for someone on the town's payroll. I'm just looking for a contractual relationship that I can pay somebody by the meeting to make sure those notes are kept. I can take those, review them, tweak them, send them on to the board. That's all I'm asking for.
That makes
So they would
perfect.
not perform all these functions? The person you have in mind would not be doing those functions? And while he's looking at that, Ron, the title permitting technician, is that what comes out of whatever from the state and
That's
job position?
the closest
throughout?
that's right, that was the closest Anita had to that job description, but we'd have to revise it.
Did
I'm
we
sure.
check with other towns on whether or not they have a permitting technician?
It's
what
it's
their
easy to
job
do,
duties
that's
are?
right, yeah.
So it sounds like we've got a need for one thing, but because of the way our system's set up, we have to get something that doesn't match. That's nonsense. I think the perfect solution is to just get someone local who wants to come in and take some minutes and can pay them, you know, on a per meeting basis or whatever. I'm sure we can work out a contract on that and not have all the, not overcomplicate it.
The request was simple, and by the time it went to the Human Resources Director, to the town manager, it became what you see before you.
Okay.
And that's not what's being requested.
Okay.
$5,000 will allow us, I think, to meet our needs. And
So
If
do
you've
we
got
wanna,
$5,000, you can handle it.
so do we want to take out the 14.5 from salaries and wages plus whatever might have been added as a result of VICA and so on, and then put in 5,000 under contract,
Excuse me, Ron.
contract labor?
Yeah, that makes sense.
These
And
were-
Sam shaking his head, we could do that.
Yeah.
While you're out of the room, these were.
And would that be okay with you? Add 5,000 for contract labor.
that's what I wanted.
And then take out the 14.5 and the associated expenses for the personnel? Would that, is that okay with everybody?
That sounds
Reasonable?
Sounds.
I mean, Shannon shaking his head, Sam shaking his head. Ron, what say you?
I just gave him the update on the other items. He was out of the room,
Oh,
so
Okay.
I gave
okay.
him the other ones that we accepted for the.
Subtracting, let's see, that'd be 9.5, 9.5 from salaries and benefits.
Well, we'd put 5 under a contract labor
Yep.
somehow, even.
The net is 9,500.
Okay.
That's under
Okay.
section 100.
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. The net is 9.5, right. Okay. Makes sense to me. Appreciate it.
Next victim. Oh,
Anything?
and Ron, while you were out of the room, what I expressed to the board was that 35,200 we can cut, but what I need is relief from the goals that we have set, so that we can just strictly focus on operations.
Right. And the
Projects.
board needs to understand that there are 2 annual goals that directly are related to that cut right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know what they are off the top of your head? What
Yes,
those 2 goals?
the comprehensive plan and then the TDA plan.
The TDA plan.
Right.
Yes, you had 2 goals that were directly related to those planning services.
Yeah.
One was to complete one project from the comprehensive plan update, which was either a vision book or there were some other minor amendments. The other one was the project for the TDA Town Center Master Plan, and it was to be determined at a later date. So again, you're looking at primarily just zoning regulation amendments in his department.
That's right. that keeps us operational and allows me to focus on projects as we have need, so.
I think I'm okay with that if I understand the impact of the TDA plan and not doing anything there.
And this still includes implementation of our work plan for 18-19, which this board reviewed and approved for the planning board.
And the TDA still has infancy anyway, aren't they, as far as trying to, needing anything really from us?
Well, once we get the plan adopted, it's time to execute the plan.
Right.
Which means we start to focus on the CI.
Just a general supply line.
Was that your beer you're cutting, Dean?
For the cooler on the boat.
Oh, okay. On the police boat?
Yep.
What Mr. Givens meant to say.
You're getting a Yeti cooler.
Also looking at Lake, when you ask for 10%, if you really look at the budget for lake operations, 400,000 of it is dredging.
Right.
So if you go at 10%, you're really only going toward less than 200,000. And I did everything I could in there, looking over the trends of what lake supplies and stuff cost. The only other thing you could call into question there that I think is the travel and transportation for training. And that's one of the things we have to weigh out, is that what we want to do or not do? Well, 500 of it's coming out of the 213 line. I don't know what sheet you guys have got, I've just got.
All I show is the total.
Right, we got it, yeah.
We're showing 8,000 in that.
On line item 213, there was $500 to come off of that. And, line item 214, supplies department, that's paper and all of that stuff, there was $500 to come out of that line item. And then on the next page, it's line item 217, supply uniforms. I was cutting that $200.
Yeah, there were cuts throughout. I've lumped them
Got it.
together, and then the
Got it.
department head can make
Yeah.
that decision. Yeah.
Well, I know Sam was asking questions earlier on the other one, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Now, I asked Ron for a basic consolidation sheet showing lake expenses and lake revenues, and to see how close we are to self-sufficiency on the lake budget. And of course, that one we haven't got yet. So whenever we get the Parks and Rec stuff and get that along with it.
So, Dean, on the operating expenses here, one of the things we've had some issues with in the past year, and it doesn't just go out and look at the lake. How does that get expensed? I mean, I know there's just the salary and our own labor, we use our own equipment, or this looks like we're looking at almost a whole different order of magnitude of cleanup here from this storm. How will that get paid for? I guess it's in this year's budget, actually, wouldn't it be? Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, basically, when we clean it up ourselves, you've already got the staff's labor programmed in. We've already got our boat fuel and stuff programmed in. I mean, it's not extra expenses other than we use more of it. We use more fuel, but the labor for the staff is already programmed into the budget. Now, if we had to pay, if it got real bad, it's right before 4th of July, and you wanted to pay a company to come in and help us get it out, then that would have to be a contractual service that we really don't have a line.
Have we done that before, getting supplemental help?
In 1996, we actually had the Department of Corrections, we set up a site over at Lakewood Village Resort, and they brought in prisoners from the Department of Corrections, and the community participated on the lake and towing logs and trees and whatever else we found over to that site, and we pulled the stuff in there by boat, and the prisoners were there. They came out and unhooked, and they had town equipment there. that they moved stuff up into that area and staged it there so it could be hauled away. That's the only time I can remember that we've had outside help, and that was not, I don't think that was something that had to be paid. That was probably something that, you know, that came somewhat out of the prison budget, I think. But that was a great project, because we, you know, the morning after that storm, you could walk from my house over to the damn marina across the water.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was totally, at the dam, it was totally covered. Now, I don't think we're gonna have that bad. I mean, it's pretty bad. It was bad enough that Tom McKay called last night to check on me, see if I was okay, because he said all the stuff is going down the river here behind.
Gotta go
here,
somewhere, yeah.
So there's gonna be stuff, you know, but.
What we're probably gonna do is we're gonna ask for public help, LAB, and try to get the public to come out and help get the lake cleaned up after this incident, depending on how bad it ends up being. Right now, I don't, you know, I've been driving around the lake and looking and stuff, and I'm not seeing anything like what John's describing.
Well, the reason, you mean, well, I'm just describing right now, or in the past where I've.
96,
Yeah.
where you can
No, I don't
walk
think.
across the lake and stuff. I'm
No.
not seeing anything like that. Yes, there's gonna be a lot of debris, and yes, we've spent numerous hours out there cleaning it up. The day after we got it cleaned up, I was out at Mr. Moore's house last week cleaning up. He's got a lot there, and these storms are just starting to bring it back in again. So, you know, as soon as we get past these storms, we'll get out there, we'll get going again, and if we need to summons public help, we'll start doing that and trying to get it up that way.
Now, Dean, if we get the big stuff out of the lake, you know, the stuff that's used in barge, like you got it at our, in our cove.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't a lot of the little stuff, won't it go over the dam? Just a little.
It will if they open the trash gate in the boom, it'll start going that way. Generally, usually within about 3 days, a lot of that little stuff drops out to the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
You know, by the time it gets to the dam, you're kind of looking at a lot bigger stuff.
Yeah.
That's making its way there, and most of that will go through the trash gate. I mean, the bigger tree limbs, the logs, you know, we'll definitely have to take care of that.
What we have now is we have a lot of that trash, not just from this event. We have a lot of that trash that's gotten up into riprap and stuff. I know I totally had mine cleaned totally. And now all that stuff is back up in, came back in there. Now that the boats are in, the wakes are up, it's washing everything out. So we definitely need to use the trash gate and move the boom back.
Yeah. Well, how do y'all determine when to use the trash gate? Is there a reason to not just kind of, like right now, to just kind of leave it open and let the trash go through there?
No, well, that's not under his responsibility either.
I'm not familiar with it. You looking at it.
It gets used when I complain enough. That's when it gets used.
Okay. So get John fired up over here, and
we'll get the trash gate open. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
So is everybody okay with Lake, with that $1,200 cut?
Yep, we're good.
I am. Next is capital projects. Bucket truck, I do not recommend cutting. The Tryon Bay storm drain, how important is that? How significant? I'm not real familiar with how bad the problem is over on Tryon Bay and what having that's going to.
If I remember David's description of that when we had the retreat, I think that he thought that was a pretty critical thing that was going to have to be corrected, or it could be a lot worse if it's not addressed. But I believe the way I remember he
correct on that.
He stated that. Let me ask a question on the bucket truck. Is that something where if we used a subcontractor when we needed a bucket truck and you know paid a contracted price or an hourly rate on something like that we could?
I'm not sure. What is it, Bob? You've kept up with that one, but what is it we use it for?
Okay, first of all, it's a safety issue. We're putting up all these banners and everything we do for the town. We're doing them totally in violation of every rule, insurance rule known to man.
Especially OSHA.
Yes, exactly. So we have liability there. Two is it's just like driving down boys camp. You know, maybe one day everything's fine, but then the next day you got limbs hanging down, they'd be able to go there and nip them off in the road.
And all they can do is cut as high as the pickup truck will allow them and
But there's just
So there's enough use to justify having
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That was my question.
And this 45 is a max. We're gonna try to go to like a Duke power sale where they've maintained these trucks through the years and get one from there at the auction rate. But it's just highly needed, and it's just, they've been doing things
all
too long, too much
throughout
at
the
risk.
town, the vegetation up so close to the road, the canopy can sink 10 feet in one night of hard rain, you know, literally.
Well, they're just taking too many chances. And
Okay, that's interesting.
But that one I feel we should leave in, and based on what you had Tryon Bay, street paving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta do that.
Was this in addition to Powell bill money?
It is. You're going to receive your street study June 12th, and those numbers are going to be very surprising and maybe shocking to some of you about the needs in street paving. And so again, that'll be presented June 12th. But David feels like he could go ahead and cut $35,000 out of the existing budget to leave him a little bit more to get him started this next year.
How much does that leave in the budget in excess of Powell bill money?
It would have been, what did we bring in, 185, so he was bringing it to 150, so that's a little less than double what your PAL bill would do. Usually your PAL bill's about 68, yeah, 68.
My concern is we're so far behind on these roads anyway.
Yeah,
I just can't, I mean, we're 20 years behind right now.
And
I
we're
just
getting
can't-
more problems every day with all this rain, all the rain we've had, all the culvert issues,
I just
stuff
think we
like
need,
that.
I mean, we need this work on the roads.
I heard a number the other day that, and this was on the conservative side, of a mile was what, 300,000, I think, so you're.
That is
yeah,
conservative.
Yeah, you're
It
not.
cost us 300,000 for boys camp, which was 2 miles,
Right.
a little over.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're not gonna get a lot of paving done for 150,000.
No.
Yeah.
I recommend we keep that in there.
Okay.
Again, that small area recreational study, that's to study the area out by the golf course and the school.
That's correct.
For pickleball, and, hey,
Active recreation.
cut it for this year. As far as I'm concerned, cut it for this year. Leave it on the CIP for next year, maybe. That's just 10,000 more to help. So,
We'll let Dale design that.
I was gonna say, Dale could design that.
Well, this is communicate with Vic Knight, and he'll go ahead and cite it in there.
Yeah.
Golf course. There won't be any plan to build from.
Right.
He'll cite it in there for nothing, just so we
Oh,
can see.
Yeah,
it.
there's not that much flat land out there.
This project is much bigger than just that one.
Right, we understand
So,
that.
yeah, just know.
Is it much bigger than $10,000?
The cost was?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we feel we can do the study for $10,000, but that includes a larger area up by the school.
Yep, that was wrapping it all together.
Yeah, it was all one project.
Right.
It took care of the golf course, tennis courts, pickleball, basketball, all your active recreation that would move closer to the school.
Well, they're gonna get a new gym, right?
So what do you think?
I'll be honest, I mean, we gotta do it, I'd just soon leave it in there.
But do we have to do it this year?
It's, I mean, no, you don't have to do it this year. But it holds up the tennis courts
I
here,
understand
holds
that.
up the other projects. You're backing up 2 steps if you don't include it.
Okay.
I think we've got to cut something.
We have.
Well, we have.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty good up here right now.
And the Marina Boardwalk 150, is that what the 150 we already have?
We already dealt with that.
Right, spread over 2 years. So out of the capital projects, the only thing we're saying leave there is that Marina Boardwalk 150 and don't cut out the stuff you marked as cutting out. Okay, leave the small area recreational stuff.
I just think we need to.
Okay.
I mean, everything moves so slow in government, unfortunately, anyway.
Yeah.
After you do 27 meeting groups and 3 years of planning, this will finally get
Well, let's cut out our debt service.
Okay, you write that check.
I think by law.
Just don't pay it,
can't do
Sam.
that.
We can just put a check mark beside that one, right?
Can we just refinance and make it long term?
Just don't pay it and let Sean come get you.
LGC would come get you.
Okay, so the only thing we're cutting there under capital is the Marina Boardwalk debt service we can't change. Non-governmental. Hey, if we can make those reductions, great.
No further can be made.
Yeah. Well, unemployment and insurance, if we can do that, that's fine. That's $2,000. I'm okay with those. So, what do you want to talk about at the bottom of the page there, Ron?
So that was 2,000, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
The unemployment and insurance under non-governmental. Town council salaries, you didn't want to cut that. Engineer, we discussed. Utility worker, we discussed. Parks and Rec director, we're holding. Supplies and maintenance operations. What are these, just totals of everything we already looked at?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we can skip it.
So we're holding off Parks and Rec
Right.
decision or discussion?
Just for
Okay.
discussion.
For description and that kind of stuff, yeah. Hey. So, are we, revenue report, looking at,
Sam was kind enough to go ahead and put your revenue report in there. There's, you can cover it if you'd like him to. But as you know, revenue sources are sort of dwindling for towns. And so there's not much out there that we aren't doing already. But Sam has outlined that for you in case you have any questions.
So what we said last time, we're at 6 3/4. Rutherfordton is gonna add another quarter, or Rutherford County, for their approval. And we could legally, if we got, I guess, state approval, we could add a 1/2 cent local sales tax, local retail sales tax, could we not?
There are only, Sam, if I remember, very few, and it would be very tough. Is that what your results were?
I'm not sure if that would have to go to referendum.
I don't care about how tough of the process. I understand the maximum allowed by law is 7.5. And we're gonna be at 7 with the 1/4% from Rutherford County. All right, then I recommend we still pursue a 1/2 cent local retail sales tax. And that would only apply within the city limits, and it would only be on certain items. But the bulk of it would probably come out of Ingalls on certain items. And it's gonna come during season from tourists.
Do you happen to know how that's distributed? Is that distributed on the same basis as the regular sales tax?
If it's a local retail sales tax, all of it comes back to us. That the 0.5% comes to us.
Because that's not how other sales tax is handled.
Right. It's a retail sales tax, and it comes back, from what I understand. But I think it's something that we ought to agree upon pursuing and researching and see what it does take. I don't care how tough it is, but we'll never get there if we don't start. So, and that's an additional revenue for the town.
I think researching is okay. I wouldn't go so far as to say, from my perspective, pursue yet until we know all the, until we know more about it. But researching is
How
fine.
sales tax is distributed in the county, it's distributed by ad valorem. So you have this
Right.
money that you collected, and it will distribute to the county, Forest City, and all the different municipalities based on your value.
Do any other municipalities in Rutherford County have a local sales tax?
No.
I think there's only two in the state, is that?
I'm not. I think Durham is the only one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Does it require General Assembly approval?
Yes.
Certainly, yes.
So it's all initiated at the county. So
Yes, it's here, Durham, Mecklenburg, Orange and Wake.
The challenge is they're going to look at your existing tax rate, and the state has said in the past on some of these types of occasions that you need to handle that in-house depending on your tax rate, so.
So they handle it through property taxes rather than
That's
sales
right.
taxes.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the correlation to us being such a tourist area.
They understand.
They understand.
None of
They understand from their perspective. They don't understand from our perspective. Let me rephrase that.
Doesn't look like these are any coastal counties here which would have big tourist population.
I had an interesting conversation this past weekend. Kathy and I were in D.C. for a wedding, and we were in a little place called Leesburg outside of D.C. where the wedding was. We went to a restaurant brewery there. When they brought the check, I looked at the check, and I think the sales tax was 7%. And then they had food tax, and that food tax was 6%. And they've had that in this little, and I'm not suggesting we do it, because the guy that owned the restaurant, I talked to him for probably a total of an hour over two days. Kathy and I went there. And he said it was a disaster for the food service business there. But it only applies to restaurants, and only applies to town limits. If they charge 6%, they've had it for 10 years, and he said, you know, all the rest of the people that own the businesses hate it. But it's you know, I couldn't believe it. They could get by with doing 6% on top of the sales tax.
Yeah, I'll readily admit, I don't fully understand it 100% on the distribution, but that's why I'm saying I think we should pursue checking into it, finding out what it takes, what it would do, how it would be done, and letting us know that information.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
So we can make an informed decision on whether or not to pursue it.
I mean, these other things I would be the last thing I'd ever want to recommend. Animal tax, and talk about.
Okay, and the quarter
No, you ain't gonna put a tax on me.
that Rutherford County did, that goes all to, that's all predetermined, going to education and so forth. None of that's coming to the municipality.
None of it.
The other thing I'd say is these revenue sources, there's a couple exceptions, but mostly would not generate the trouble that they're worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I sent all of y'all an info email yesterday, which is talking about money for charter schools possibly, as well as broadband money. I sent that to you too, Sam. We need to make sure that we get a jump start on trying to apply for any of that that's available, and not wait too late.
I know Russ Pitts is already working on that.
Yeah. Animal taxes, you're not gonna put a tax on me or my dog, so forget it.
Famous last words.
But yeah, that's
maybe that'd make you move somewhere else. We might want to think about that.
Yeah, maybe. The one page here I had asked for was showing the property tax valuations and tax rate again, but it only showed the 3 volunteer fire departments and not Lake Lure itself, which is the primary one on our budget. When we do our tax rate, and we have currently 27.6 and 8.1 or 2 of it, whatever, Sam, I think 8.1 or something is what is currently allocated for fire department. Does that match up with our total property tax evaluation for the town as a prorated share?
Again, the fire district is one complete district. It is the Lake Lure Fire District. So that's the whole valuation. Now we contract with 3 volunteer fire departments to provide services in our fire district. So you are paying them a service fee to provide that service to us. So the valuations were the 3. Again, the total valuation is in your budget book. That doesn't change. So you're really looking at the portion of those 3 valuations. I could probably make that simpler in a Excel spreadsheet if
Well,
you like.
the total, from what I'm seeing, is 6 cents, 10 cents, and 5 cents.
Yeah, they do that through the county. They request their own. That is for also outside of Lake Lure. That's for their complete
Then
district.
that's saying that justifies 21 cents per 100, the way this shows.
That's for their whole district. So Chimney Rock is more than just Lake Lure. Bills Creek is more than just Bills Creek, or I'm sorry, more than just Lake Lure. So
Doesn't Lake Lure extend beyond, the fire district extend beyond the city limits?
Yeah.
Out Girls Camp Road?
Off Girls
So we
Camp.
collect
That's correct.
on that as well.
That's correct.
This is still not giving me what I want.
I think there was a song about that.
How did we get at 8.1 out of our 27.6 as what they need when this shows 6 cents for Bills Creek, 1 cent for Fairfield, 5 cents for Chimney Rock, which is a total of 21 cents.
Of course, I wasn't here when the formula was originally done, but the way I understand it is the board calculated what the fire tax rate was going to be set at. They came up with a dollar amount, and that's what the fire the fire budget has been allocated. So it's the 8 point, is that correct, Sam, roughly?
Roughly. The problem with that is that you always have increases. Within their operational budget, there is contributions to Chimney Rock and the various fire departments. And if those increase, that will lower the fire department operation. Base it on property values. If the property values stay the same and your expenses go up, well, then your fire tax will go up.
I guess another way to say it is the county does not break down what part of Bills Creek Volunteer Fire Department fire area is in Lake Lure versus the county.
All right, I understand. Maybe y'all need to go back and look at what was done in 2012 or 13 or 14 when that was first instituted and see how it was done and duplicate it. But this says there's a 21 cent tax rate per 100 for fire service. And that's not what we show on our billing, and that's not what we have broken out, not even close to it.
I want to make sure I understand. Say that one more time. The 21 cents.
Our current bill that goes out shows Lake Lure as 19 and some odd point for the town, and then fire 8.1.
Right.
Okay? Our total is 27.6. We're gonna add 12.7 if this was adopted as presented. All right? So what is that bill gonna show then for Lake Lure and fire? It won't show, it will still show 8.1? What's it gonna show?
It's gonna show whatever that fire department budget is.
Yeah, so it could fluctuate, likely go up. I mean,
Which fire department budget?
Right.
It's for the
main one?
The fire department budget includes your volunteer fire departments.
Okay.
Yeah, so that budget, whatever that percentage is gonna be your tax rate on that fire.
I wanna see what that is. That's what I'm asking for. I wanna see what that breakout is for the fire departments from the tax rate. Maybe it's too soon to ask. Maybe it's too soon to ask. Maybe wait until after we get all these cuts.
As presented, it will be, let me do some quick.
Sam, what were you gonna say?
He's doing what I was gonna say.
Okay. Because I know we're not allocating 21 cents of our total tax rate towards fire departments. So that just doesn't make sense to me right now.
All right, as proposed, it would be 9.22.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Got it? As proposed, and that'll change, that'll go down.
Right, depending on your final budget.
Got it, okay. All right, I'm ready to move on, man.
Can we now just take a pause and kind of sum up where I think we are based on those charts, Ron, and you know, where we kind of started today. We have identified, I added those things up pretty quickly, you can check my math, but I think we have about $432,900 worth of savings if you add all that stuff up. if that is correct, that puts us right at $84,000 per penny tax. That gives us a reduction of 5 pennies for that 432,000 and change, okay? We started out, Ron, with the recommended increase you said was 12 cents, right?
Approximately.
Approximately. So if we reduce then, we take the 5 out of the 12, we're down to 7. And of that 7, I believe you said we should allocate 3 cents to the dam and its debt service for rehabilitation. That would leave a net increase of 4.
That's correct.
Right? Just
Yes,
to
sir.
get us into the thing. So, I mean, starting back up at a gross increase of, let's say we settle in somewhere here at 7, at our gross appraised property values, what does 7 cents translate into? You had it for a $300,000 property?
It was $100 a month.
Was $100 a month, and that was for the 12 cents, right? So now if we're down to 7.
Does anybody have that email?
I've got it in here.
Do you?
I mean, I don't have it printed out.
Oh, okay.
So we could take 7/12 of $100. I mean, roughly. I mean, just to make it simple.
Well, I mean, I can do it real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
2 plus 2. Don't you be using these big numbers with me.
I'm trying to get it down here.
All right.
It's a simple number here.
I'm trying
Go back to sleep. We'll wake up.
to, let me know when you get to that simple.
We'll give you the
number.
answer here in a minute.
Yeah.
What? So and that was $100 a month, right? Is that right?
I don't want to quote something on an email that I don't have it in front of me, so.
Oh.
I'm trying to find it here. I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to have a feel for where
Wouldn't that be
shall we are at this point, so we know.
Wouldn't that be the $100 on the tax increase for the year?
Yeah, 7/12, that's 58%.
Month.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But
Did you send that in the email, or was it?
it was an email, yes, sir.
Wait.
You kept me so entertained on vacation of all your emails, I wasn't really sure which one that was that I kept and didn't.
Okay, that was your flip charts? Correct?
Well, there was a thing in the original, maybe I'm
That's-
looking
that's
at,
what
Ron,
I-
in the original.
Yeah, that's where I know I saw it.
$86.50 a month.
Is the answer to
At
a
7
$300,000 property?
cents. Yeah, hold on just a second, 300.
Yeah, one penny is 83,490. Tax rate. And what was proposed, or what do you want to know, current or proposed?
I just want to know right now, the increase of 7 cents, what does that do to a property with an appraised value of $300,000? That's what I want to know.
Okay, with an increase of 7 cents. That-
Correct. What's the increase in property tax per
Okay.
year on that property?
All right. And actually, we kept saying 12, and the actual recommended was 12.7. Do you want to use that for a more accurate figure?
Okay,
So it'd be 7.7.
correct.
Well, okay, it'd come off of 40.
So that's a 25% increase
43, it'd be a 35.3.
from your current tax rate.
25%.
If I understand all the questions, you're on a $300,000 house, you're currently paying about
$1,200 a year, right?
You're paying $69 a month. At the new tax rate proposed, it would be $86.50 at the 7 cents.
So it's going up from
Up
6
as a percentage, it is
25%.
25%.
Right.
The tax per year total would be $1,059 on a $300,000 home at 35.3 rate.
Okay.
Mine's a little lower than that, but
Yeah.
we're close.
But I just wanted to get in the ballpark. I mean, looking at an order of magnitude as a property owner in Lake Lore, what might I be looking at? And then I think you did a nice job of sort of putting that into context of what if you break that down monthly. I mean, that's not a lot of money monthly.
17 extra dollars.
Not to water that down, but it's $17. I mean, so it's not. I just wanted to see what level of financial impact, hardship we would be imposing on folks in general in the community with this kind of tax increase. And that tells me what I need to know. Okay, so what else do we need?
So I will make these adjustments, change them as part of the presentation on June 12th. Is that agreeable, David?
Well, okay, now, the one thing we haven't talked about because they aren't here are the volunteer fire departments, which is in our packet. So we haven't discussed them. And the proposals, I'm okay with the Bills Creek and Chimney Rock, 45-45, which is the same thing we've been doing each year. No increase this year. But the Fairfield volunteer fire department, there was a significant difference between their proposed and requested versus the manager recommendation. And my greatest concern there was what was being cut out that they feel like they could not absolutely live without. So I don't know if we want to bring them back or have them tell us that during the June 12th, or if we have a follow-on meeting after that. But I guess leave the budget as is for the June 12th presentation.
Okay.
Do you happen to have an answer to the question of what
I have
it
a
is?
general answer. Again, I've met twice with him, and the way, you know, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my understanding is it's capital needs is what's driving that increase.
What, do you know what particularly they were looking at?
There's a building addition and two
doing a
fire
second
trucks, I believe.
story on their building.
Story on Fairfield.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, certainly we can invite those folks back. I can leave those as just part of the general presentation, manager's recommendation. And then y'all, again, you have roughly a month to refine the budget from there.
Right.
Yep, that'll work.
Or I'm sorry, 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm okay with that, and I'm ready to move on in the agenda.
So
All
a
right.
person with a $300,000 home, their taxes with this increase would go up how much per year?
It was $17 a month, so
Would be the increase.
Oh, 17 per month.
Per month.
$200, a little more.
and again, that's if I've got my numbers right. I'll go back and double check
Yeah,
that.
let's confirm that.
Yeah.
200 per year for
Again.
300,000.
This is 2 hours of sleep, so yeah.
Yeah, we got to give him a little bit
Yeah,
of
okay.
of leeway on this, but that, you know the answer we're going. and
Yes, sir.
Best I can, it's not materially different than that. I mean, it may be a few books. Okay, so if, unless anybody has any further objection to moving forward, we have one more item on our agenda, which is contracts approvals. Ron, you've given us 5 different contracts here that you would like us to consider. Is that the right term?
Yes, sir. As you know, we, you know, as best as department heads can do, we have a lot of day-to-day activities. And so there's always certain projects that come up at the end of the fiscal year that we want to try to wrap up with the funding that we've got available. I will say that if you'll recall, $96,000 is projected to come out of your fund balance. That's to roughly reallocate the carryover that is what Sam and I are projecting. Interestingly enough, we both did separate numbers and they came up within $5,000. So we feel pretty comfortable that around 100,000 plus or minus is what you're going to end up by the end of this fiscal year in your general fund. So that money is proposed to be reallocated in this budget. In order to make sure that we don't affect that proposed budget, we have several contracts that we want to try to wrap up before June 30th. One is the catch ponds project over the firing range project over at the school. Y'all have budgeted that money. The money is set aside and is ready. That contract is with H&R Landscaping. At the Marina Surveying Services Project with Associated Land Surveyors, we have $10,000 that was set aside for that, and I believe that came in under budget. We also, at your last meeting, was requested to put together a pro forma. We did find the name of a person that was recommended by the Appalachian Regional Commission who has worked on public-private partnerships, and I understand is very competent at coming up with proposals. And so we would like to tap that knowledge. She is local, had worked at Western Carolina University, and so she now works with W.R. Martin, and we would like to move that project forward with money that's left over for this fiscal year. We also have the boys camp.
What was the cost on that one?
You're going to ask 7,000? Does that sound right?
75.
75.
Plus reimbursable expenses.
75.
Yeah.
Plus reimbursables.
The
Page
boys.
63.
63. Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, 75. You also have the Boys Camp Spoils Pit Project, which is something the board asked us to do at your last meeting. There is still one outstanding question that we need to have answered, and the first part of that contract answers that question. The second part of that contract would only move forward if you decided to move forward with the project itself. So what we were going to ask is permission to go ahead and approve the full contract, knowing that if you decide not to move forward on it, that we would not perform the second part of that contract. The Spruce Hill Road repair is another one that came forward at your last meeting to pave the road at Spruce Hill, and Tri-City Paving had the lowest bid, and David is ready to move forward on that project by June 30th.
Excellent. I only had questions regarding one of the contracts, and that's the Boys Camp Road. And I don't know if it would affect what they're looking for on the permit amendment or the no-rise. Is when completed, all ingress and egress should be directly from Boys Camp Road and not Happy Hollow Lane. So as they're surveying and planning and figuring this stuff out, I want to make sure that that's understood.
Yes, sir.
And second, that we currently have a buffer on the east where that creek is, or the drainage, and they said they could reroute that or whatever. If this was done, an adequate buffer would need to be along the west and the north as well. Along the one property and along the road.
Dean, do you see any problem with that?
I don't. Did y'all get to see the map?
Yes, the map's in there.
This one here?
Yeah, but again, well, that's what I'm looking at though, but all three of those sides should have adequate buffers, and if that affects the planning or the surveying or whatever we're looking at, I want that known up front.
What I was wanting to show you here is this is going to be your ingress and egress, then off of the Happy Hollow Lane. That's what the work area is there, so it'll take care of what you were saying.
Well, that's one, and that and the buffers, you need that, because you have a residence to all three sides there.
Cost of Spruce Hill. What was the cost of the Spruce Hill? What was the cost on the Spruce Hill Tri-City Paving?
Tri-City Paving, 1,500, did you say?
No, it was 67 something back when that was presented to us at council, and then we approved up to 10.
10, that's right.
It was 9,900, and it was right there, right at the top.
Well, that's with the additional stuff David threw in, right?
Yes, I mean, that included the full project.
Right, that's the additional items he threw in.
We approved up to 10.
You approved up to 10.
Thank you.
Which we insisted he do, so, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm good with the contract, so I don't have any issues.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve all 5 as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I make
Thanks,
a
Ron.
motion to adjourn.
Oh, that's gonna cost you.
Well, I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I'm sorry.
I have something I'd like to ask.
Yeah, he wasn't done, so.
Well, he's got a little something.
Okay, I withdraw my motion. to
Oh,
adjourn.
thank you.
Well, I just, this would go back to our initial discussion when we first started about the state of where we are with the emergency. I guess I'd like to know, Ron, and you may not know this now, but what our plan is, recovery is going to be, as far as, you know, taking advantage as soon as we can to get the lake back up to full pond. And I think that's something we definitely need to have a plan for, as we've got extra water coming, and we get ourselves back to, you know, I realize we don't know impact from debris and stuff like that.
What's hard about this storm, again, it's unusual in the intensity and the unpredictability. And so we have seen, as you well know, a lot of rain up this gorge. And I think the National Weather Service acknowledges that. I think Dustin told me we had over 15 inches of rain in the last 10 days. So, you know, if you'll compare that to Hurricane, what were the ones that came through?
13 inches in 6 hours.
We have exceeded the last hurricane that came through. So Francis, I'll get it out in a minute. So any rain that falls now is going directly into the lake, and I think that's what we're trying to do is say, all right, we can start recovery, but we also have to acknowledge that these rain events are still going on, and we have to have some room for those. Yeah. According to them, they won't be as intense as these storms last night.
And the guys have demonstrated that they can maintain a level pretty well.
We can maintain it if we're there. And again, we're on 12-hour shifts. John is working 12-hour day. Donnie is working 12-hour night. So they are at the site, and they're actively involved in the lake monitoring, which is what's helping level that out.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll make
If
the
not,
motion to
here's the
adjourn.
motion. And you see, he beat you. Yeah.
I'll
Commissioner
second.
Cameron makes the motion to adjourn. Is there a second there? Commissioner Weber. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Man.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.